disappear. All right. Everything in the load back up. All right, cool. Everything's loading back up. Everything's connected. Cool. I'm going to put up the new page as we're doing this. Wait for everybody to flow back in. All right, everybody's back in. All right, sorry about that. If anybody tuned in last week, the same thing happened last week. I'm putting a new post out on my Facebook feed. Feel free to share the new joint. I'm going to go into that one so I can see connections to everything on my end. All right, cool. Everything's coming back up. Cool. We back in effect. Wait for everybody to load back in. Everybody to flow back through. Everything should be working. All right, everybody's coming back through. I'll see the chat pop up on my screen over here. As you coming in, wait, make sure all my sound is right. Okay, cool. All my sound is right. Everything good. Everything popping. Everything good. All right. Coming into this mindset, coming into this space, there's a system of understanding the feminine and the masculine energy. As you go through your shadow work, and we're going to get very deep into the aspects of shadow, some of the deep depths of shadow work tonight. As you come into the aspects of your shadow work and working on yourself, you start to learn what you actually came down here and you were actually projected down. You were actually projecting yourself to learn as you come down here. The major aspect that a lot of people aren't realizing is you're supposed to be understanding if you're of the masculine aspect, you're coming down here to understand the feminine aspect. If you are of the feminine aspect, you're coming down here to understand the masculine aspect. The negative contexts, just like whenever you see gay people, let's say we use gay people, STEM, studs, whatever they want to be called, the LGBT, let's say you share that aspect. You see the stereotypical or usually the negative archetypes to sell the energy, the negative archetypes to embark upon the energy. So if you're stuck within that space, suckling energy or incubating the knowledge, that's what the incubus does. It incubates based on knowledge, the masculine aspect, and the succubus sustains the nurturing of said knowledge on a lower level. So the succubus and the incubus archetype are feeding from the wounded complexes of the masculine and the feminine. Took a lot of notes because I didn't want to lose any Where am I? Okay, cool. I got notes everywhere. The natural masculine is the projective, the action, the giving, the expansive, and the outward. The feminine energy aspect is repetitive, receptive, passive, contractive, intuitive, inward. These are the natural balances that are actually within the rejected archetype. These are of the rejected archetype that's behind the negative aspect. When we're breaking down things, when we start breaking down these things, they're always going to go, your shadow work, everything that you do is going to be broken down into, as I interpret and I look at it, it's always the Holy Trinity, understanding the Holy Trinity complex. The Father, the Son, Mother, and Son, that archetype, what we're getting into, aspect, the expanding past in life. So if I'm using these aspects and I would like somebody to accept so I can feed upon their natural essence, their natural energy, your natural energy. I need to bring you into an archetype to where there's a crack. I have to bring you into a space to where there's a crack. Therefore, I will have to use the wounded complexes or the wounded archetypes of that said energy. I only can act within the wounded concept of the said energy. The wounded archetypes got notes everywhere. The wounded feminine is the victim, powerless, weakness, manipulation, withholding, neediness, codependency, oversensitivity, and over-emotional. The wounded masculine archetype, the perpetrator, abuse of power, dominance, aggression, control, competitive, confrontational, criticism, abuse, avoidance, unsupportive, and unstable. Now, just by me reading that, we are going outside of the three-dimensional archetype. Remember, we're going out of 3D. We're going into our enlightenment, into our spiritual aspects. In order to get to our spiritual in that enlightened concept, not just being I'm awoke and I'm aware of my surroundings, and we need an economic plan, or we need a bank, or we need a school system. We need all these aspects. It does no good to it does no good to build anything in your environment if the mind or the mental state is not in balance. You cannot create anything from the chaos or nurture anything from the chaos if you do not understand the archetypes or the aspects of the chaos. You can't make any moves unless you can't make any moves. So saying that, going outside of the aspects of I'm a man, so all I got to do is deal with my being the perpetrator, the abuse of power, and the dominance. No, that's the misconception of the aspects of gender. You call yourself a god. You call yourself a goddess. You call yourself this aspect. You are no more stable than you saying that over and over and over again. You create a deity. So you deify yourself. No, you created a deity. If anybody has studied the aspects of the Nag Hammadi scriptures, if you're studying the Gnostic text, if you're studying anything and you read about Adalderbroth and the seven heavens of chaos and all of these aspects, you're starting to understand that you are creating an archetype for that entity to feed based upon the wounded aspects of yourself. Not doing the necessary work into yourself, you naturally feed the environment that you're in. So you can blame. It's just people will sit and blame and put an external and based on an external state of being, and they'll be like, this is what caused this. It's not your mother's fault. It's not your father's fault. It's not your dad's fault. It's not my fault. It's nobody's fault. The line that is within that fault is based upon yourself. The things that you have not accepted within yourself. The things that you see outside of you are the aspects of the lost self. The emotional imbalances within yourself. I don't listen, or I no longer can comprehend based upon fear. I can't comprehend based upon fear. So the same narratives that I use, you got to be unaffected. I don't understand the aspects based upon fear. Dame Dash interview on Candace class, I made a post on my Facebook. I don't understand fear. I don't understand. Only thing I fear is fear, or is the concept of accepting or submitting myself to fear. That's what he was saying. So if I put myself into this aspect of trying to understand things, and I'm only looking at it from one side. Remember, your ego or your identity creates that concave lens for that light to everything to only shine through and be altered to fit that agenda, that conspiracy, that theory that you have now theorized. With a theory, with your scientific, anybody understands basic the scientific process. Now that you have created this theory, that this is what it is, You must now live that theory and find information to make that a suitable standard for you to exist in your space. Whether you are conscious of it or not, this is what you are. This is what we are seeing in real time. What we're seeing right now is now you stay in a space long enough. If you stay in a space long enough, you get too big for the bull. You get too big for the bull. Now it's time for new information to come through. You ain't bringing the new information down. Everybody's looking around like, I've been looking for the information for everywhere. That's where you're at. This is where you're at. That old paradigm is now shifting because it's of the old archetype. I remember when Bobby Hemmett came through and set the Afrocentric movement and all these movements on fire, going into the dark side, into these the deeper aspects, and bringing in more information. I remember when that shifted an entire thing. Staying too long in that space, the ones that needed to feed upon that energy, feed upon that space based upon separation, keeping everything separate, not understanding, keeping everything separate within on two sides of the same parallel. Now understanding that transparency is key. Now, how does this reflect to us? This reflects in your shadow work. Shadow work has three. I've re-identified three that I have synthesized for the understanding and interpretation for myself as I explain through this lecture. There's three aspects. This ties into the synonyms with the Trinity. The androgyny aspect, you have to understand everything from the androgynous aspect. You want to be a god? A god with no goal is simply blind. You activate that entity that is a Daldabroth that everybody likes to read about. The archons that you read about. The archons are just your lower level emotions. Your basis of your emotion in physical form. Anger, envy. Let's turn to, no, it's not in there. Let's turn to, I'll read it in here. The origin of the world. I like having reading time. The origins of the world. Since everyone, both gods of the world and the people, say that nothing existed before chaos, I shall prove they are all wrong. Because they do not know the origin of chaos or its root. Here is the proof. Although certainly people in general are inclined to say that chaos is darkness, in actuality, chaos comes from a shadow, and it is in the shadow that has been called darkness. The shadow comes from something that has existed from the beginning, and it's so obvious that something in the beginning existed before chaos and came into being, and chaos came after what was in the beginning. Let us consider the facts of the matter, and particularly what was the beginning from where chaos came. In this way, the truth will be clearly demonstrated. You got to be willing. Yes, exactly. You got to be willing to let that shit go. What happens for a lot of people, we get the information, is the three archetypes. There's the negative aspects or your identity. Your identity is the first negative aspect. The positive aspect that connects these two aspects is the negative, and the positive. Remember, there's that line. Remember, we have this line. There's that nexus point that we've been talking about. You want to go deeper into the nexus point? Revolutionary Psychology is a great book to actually understand the nexus point. There's that nexus point or that line. Based on this line or on this rhythm, there's an algorithm. There's two algorithms. There's one based upon fear and there's one based upon love, or the aspect of what true love is. Fear in that archetype. Fear in the archetype, I explained it in the podcast. It goes super fucking fast. It has no time. It has the positive and the negative, the positive being the masculine and the negative being the feminine. The positive being the masculine or the light, the positive being the masculine or the knowledge, giving the spark to the negative to charge the negative, which is the nurturer that carries it on, that carries on that process. That's why you have the term when someone hits you with, if you teach a woman, she can raise the nation. That's the feminine aspect of energy. But if you're moving based upon the wounded aspect that we're going to get into tonight, you'll start understanding why this should make sense. So you take this aspect. So if everybody on this line, everybody has this line, and I feed you based upon fear. Now your awareness is brought up based upon the fear or the necessary trauma. That trauma is needed to activate peace. That trauma is activating what is necessary. The trauma is not good or bad. The trauma is a state to activate that next level. You need that trauma. That's why whenever you read, when you're reading the histories of the ancient tribes and all of these aspects, back in the ancient tribes in the villages, they had to have the markings on their faces to initiate that trauma, to say that they were going somewhere. This aspect is not lost. This aspect is within you through your Akashic records. This is how it's found. But you have to allow the initiation of the trauma. So the trauma is a necessary aspect. Remember, last week we got into the aspects of Set. This leads into that neck. This leads into these three prongs, that pitchfork, them three prongs that we have to initiate to go down into that depth or to that sea to recreate. That sea of the creation, the Atlantis story, all of these stories point to these aspects. So there's the negative aspects. That's your identity. Everything your identity tries to protect, everything your identity tries to feed upon, that succubus and that incubus mindset within the sleep state. The succubus and the incubus within the sleep state, whether incubating that old knowledge or that old paradigm or succumbing to nurture that knowledge of the old paradigm, that is what the identity connects to based upon the sleep state. So simply saying that you're woke, this gives you the aspect that, oh my God, I'm woke. I am aware that I'm asleep. That's what it's boiled down to. To simply say that you're awoke, to simply say that you're conscious, you're just acknowledging that you are asleep. The enlightenment or the awakening takes you into your spiritual aspect. The spiritual aspect cannot be reached until you have the ego death. A lot of your ego, your ego has to fucking die. Because if your ego does not die, your ego chooses sides. Remember, your ego gives you left, right, up, down, whatever it gives you your old compass. It's moving off of the old compass. So if my mindset's stuck on my old compasses, that means all the information that I take in is simply data that I'm not going to use. It's just going to become more trash in my head. Now I can say it. Now it sounds nice for me to say it out loud. It sounds nice for me to sit here and read or say something, and it sounds profound, and it sounds, wow, I want to get to that level. You're already at that level. Everything's within you. That's the whole aspect. And when someone says it's all within you, the information that you read, as you start reading your information and taking in your information, for me over the last couple of weeks, I'm just sitting here like just books and shit. I got like 5 books right now that are in rotation for me reading, and I don't even read them. I just sit beside them for a couple hours, like we're sitting there watching TV together, because I'm sitting there absorbing the information from the book, because whatever book I'm holding at the time, I'm in tune, in the show that I watch gives me the aspects of what's inside the book. Like I put a post up today about Burn Notice. Burn Notice, I forgot, it's like further along in the seasons. They just explained ego. They just explained the root to no self in Burn Notice. I saw and was able to decode and somewhat encode to be able to have it make sense for me. Like, damn, that's why I'm watching this. Giving me an aspect of myself to see. What we're seeing a lot of the times I don't want to get off the track, but we're back on track. What we're seeing a lot of these times right now, simply at this, let's take the WAP video, for example. Like, what we're seeing is encoding. People are encoding their feelings, their thoughts, their projections into it based upon the narrative of their old, of keeping things within a separate state on two different sides of the polarity without the unity, to bring more unity. It's a mind control technique. Like, it's like mob. Page 40. Page 40 in Mind Control 101. Is it 40? Yeah, it's 40. 47 has neuralistic programming. We ain't getting all this shit tonight. We might get into a lot of this shit. Social influence. The mob mind control. The mob mind control. Create a shared experience in a location where the action should be take place. Create a heightened emotional state in a group. Anger is an easy state to elicit, but more positive states can work as well. Isolate the potential mob leaders who would more freely act if protected by an anonymity of the crowd. Call to action, make it simple, keep the group together. The aspect of being a part of something, and this is the biggest aspect of that, the aspect of being a part of something, being a part of the Kemetic group, being a part of the Masons, being part of these groups and these aspects and things. This is what has your mind collectively locked to that agenda or with that space. So anything that happens based upon, oh, there was an attack on this and we gotta come together and do this, it keeps the same fear-based narrative for you to be able to be herded and controlled. So now, to tickle your fancy and to create your existence by being accepted, by fitting in, by the fear of, I don't know what to do by myself. That lonely aspect that you have to come into on your shadow work. That negative aspect, your identity and your ego, it finds a home within the corridors of the knowledge based on the intellectual concept. So now now I got a book, so I'm reading, so I'm a little bit smarter and I'm reading a little bit more. How are you addressing the natural things that happen with you based upon your shadow work? There's the negative aspects. There's the rejected aspects. There's the negative aspects based upon your identity. There's the negative aspects based upon those traumas. Those traumas, the traumas or the rejected parts of yourself that you have not yet wanted to understand are within the indoctrination process. That process that happened between the ages of 1 and 5. Hell, some motherfuckers are in their fucking 30s are still going through this repeat indoctrination process, going back for they paying their dues to whatever it may be. They paying their dues to it. Those are the rejected aspects of yourself. That's why when it comes to the surface, because your soul, that's why whenever you're in that hypnotic state, like someone goes to a fucking church and they hear the music, oh my God, they're feeling it. Their soul is actually being activated to be purged. Their soul is being activated to be connected to based upon an emotional remark. That's why when you go to a church, if you ever go into any fucking church building and you see above the podium where the preacher preaches, it's always going up because it's funneling all of that energy up. And then when the preacher actually starts to speak, when the music stops, all the energy comes back down. And then I have control of that energy based upon that archetype or based upon that archon or whatever you want to call it. That's what's connected to. You do the same exact thing. When you put yourself into this worship mentality and put something on an external state, you do the same exact thing. And now that you're in that space, you ain't got to worry. I don't want to have to do this. I don't have to do this. I don't have to say this. I don't have to do this. I don't have to worry about the things because everybody in here is going through it. Everybody's going through it, not just you. The thing that makes me different, and I'm quoting this from the new Kambada LSD album. Okay, that's why I heard it at. The thing that makes you different and me different is not the same. The thing that makes you different, that makes you, it makes me, two different aspects. That's the different aspect. That's the contradiction. So we now can understand, now I can have an understanding that there's negative aspects of myself that I had to work through. There's negative aspects of myself that I had to work through. I had to go through that work. I had to put in that fucking work. I had to go through these traumatic events because these were my infrastructure, as I'm always saying, my infrastructure falling apart. Anything that my ego could connect to, had to come to an end. It had to fall off. Everything that I would hide within, it had to be acknowledged. I went through an entire year. And a half not talking to my mother because the year prior, we had a whole falling out based on my ex at the time. Went through a whole falling out. It wasn't until after I removed that external state of not dealing with things. That's how me and my ex connected, because we both weren't dealing with we were talking about the issues, but we weren't dealing with the issues. We weren't doing any fucking shadow work. So we were living in a nostalgia of two people bonded based upon trauma and living out our wildest dreams and everything that we wanted to do. Everything was a trip. Everything was fun. But when the real shit started hitting, and this is what happens in a lot of these aspects of relationships, when the real shit started hitting, and it was like, yo, wait, so what the fuck are we doing now? I came to a point where I was like, I am no longer going to wait for anyone. My first act of selfishness. I'm no longer going to wait for anyone, because I had the natural habit of I can naturally obtain anything that I needed to move forward as I needed to willingly. I can move forward, do what I needed to do. Whatever job I had, I was most efficient at. Whatever, I got a crib efficiently, did everything I needed to do to survive so I could sustain myself over and over and over again. I can recreate the sustaining. I was unconscious to this factoid that I could do this because I was not tapping in, because I was still stuck upon struggle, still stuck upon the indoctrination of oppression that was stuck in trying to be for everybody else. I was stuck within that aspect of that nodule of trying to be for everybody else, trying to be what everybody else needed me to be at that point in time, trying to be seen by everybody at that point in time, trying to remain visible within that space. So when I had them conversations with myself, when everything was going haywire, the only things that would come up the only things that would come up was the shit that I already knew, but I had to accept it. The rejected aspects of myself was what I had to accept. How I got there in the first place. I had to accept how I got there to understand how I got there. I had to understand how I became. I had to understand the becoming to actually go through it. Every story that you'll hear goes through this. Every mythos that you hear goes through this exact same archetype of becoming your hero, battling your evil, your darker self. But you're not battling your evil self. These aspects of letting go of these parts is to better understand them from a different trajectory point. You cannot understand anything from the level where it's created. You have to be above it to be able to survey it and observe it, not be within it. You are of it already. To be a part of it is where you get stuck every time that's like if I walked into my old job right now. God no. If I walked into my old job, the closest I would get to would probably be the front door. There's nothing in that space anymore that serves me a purpose. It's now on it's part of those negative aspects that I let go of. This happens a lot when you come into your awaken, into your consciousness, you're aware of shit. There's aspects in that pile of shit that you don't want to let go of. You know that it's a piece of shit. You know that it's a piece of shit and it's all of this shit. But at the same time, you sit there and you're like, but we need an economic plan. We need our own banks. We need this, and this, and all of the third. My people are lost. My people are lost. Here's the aspect of the thought process. If the mind is all and everything is mental, the mind is all, the universe is mental. Everything has a cause. Every cause has an effect, and every effect has a cause. Every time that I externally speak that somebody is lost, I'm telling myself that I am lost because it is a reflection of me into that program. So for me to exist within that space, I must be lost on one end of the polarity, and they must be lost on one end of the polarity, the projection point. So as I'm feeding this energy through, in order for this place to sustain, it must be fed through that same algorithm or those same aspects of fear on that nexus point for this shit to exist. So I can speak what I'm speaking on based upon fear. So I can speak in the aspect of saying we need unity, but at first we need separation. Because if I say we need separation, everybody's going to be like, oh my God, no, we've been separate. You need separation. That's why niggas don't get along now. That's the exact reason why you see niggas not getting along. That is a reflection, nigga, that's not going to work. Why? Because they're not together mentally. You're acting on a wounded aspect. The wounded masculine. Preach. The wounded masculine is the perpetrator, the abuse of power, the dominance, the aggression, the control, and the competitive. The confrontational, the criticism, the abuse, the avoidance, the unsupportive, and the unstable. The wounded feminine is the victim, powerless, weakness, manipulation, withholding, neediness, codependency, oversensitivity, and over-emotional. I watched the Boosie interview a while back. on Vlad, the Jewish guy. And they were sitting there talking, and he was like, the woman isn't built for this type of life, and the woman isn't built for this, and they'll tell and they'll do this and they'll abuse their power. He was unconsciously stating everything based on the wounded masculine archetype about a woman. And he was demonstrating the aspects of the wounded feminine. He was playing the victim role. I was hurt by a woman and a woman did me wrong. The powerlessness of not being able to control it, that weakness, expressing that weakness in a reflection. I feel weak. That's why the weakness is based on the woman, that narrative, this incubus type narrative based upon your feelings. Remember, sex is a byproduct of the tantric aspects of you. Sacred Energy Xchange. Everything of you, of your energy, if it is naturally sacred and it is your energy and it can be exchanged, every time that you get into an argument, a confrontation, you having sex with somebody. You're bonding to them, agreeing to whether you're disagreeing or agreeing to the agreement, the for better or worse. We gonna have this argument. We gonna ride this shit out. We gonna go back and forth. We gonna debate. That is the aspect of what marriage is on this lower level based on intellectual. You bonding based on that. So you ain't even got the divorce yet. You ain't even divorced from your identity yet. You still married. A lot of people are still married to their ego. They've just hidden it behind the new archetypes of whatever they've now attached themselves to. Morris rights, comedic sciences. I study all of this shit. You're supposed to study all and follow none. Take what you take based on what it is you as you're reading yourself, because The aspects of when you're reading when you're reading this information, taking this information in, you're supposed to read it as yourself. There's an interesting aspect in the Book of Thomas. I made that post here. Boom, I can go straight to it now. In the Book of Thomas, there's the hidden sayings. Jesus speaks with his brother Thomas, and the hidden and the visible. The hidden sayings. The hidden saying that the Savior spoke to Judas Thomas, which I, Matthias, in turn recorded. I was walking and listening to them speak with each other. The aspect when you start reading this information and taking the information in to understand yourself, you are every aspect of this. Remember, when you study the Kabbalah and you understand the aspect of the Kabbalah, and he's saying, oh, I want to know what this looks like. And I want to know what this looks like. I've done an explanation on a podcast where I was like, imagine being a fly sitting on your laptop. What would the fly see? Imagine looking at your laptop and you looking down at your laptop at the fly. Now visualize yourself being at the fly, seeing what the fly sees. Now, the fly is now looking at you based on the laptop, based on that aspect of the laptop having its own interaction interface with you. Now you're thinking about what the fly sees. Your natural reaction is to swat away the fly. My natural reaction, I let the fly sit there. I was outside meditating this morning. Spirit said, go outside and meditate. I was like, all right, cool. Go charge the stones. All right, cool. Went outside and meditate. By the time I was done with my 35 minutes of my meditation, the ants that were within the grass were like on my legs, but none of them were biting me. They were connected to my energy. I became one with that space. Same aspect when you see niggas in Africa and lions and shit. But let's go into this aspect right here. The aspect, this is 3 parts of yourself. Jesus represents the Christos energy or your subconscious in this aspect of the book. Thomas represents your conscious or your identity. Just trying to search for something. When you start reading, you're like, damn, this shit makes sense. Because it's tapping in you. So he says, the Savior said, Brother Thomas, while you are still in the world, listen to me, and I shall reveal to you what you have thought about in your heart. What you have thought about inside your heart. Since it is said that you are my twin and my true friend, you are my twin, you are my conscious, you are my buddy at this aspect. Examine yourself and understand who you are, how you exist, and how you will come to be. Since you are to be called my brother, the masculine archetype, since you are to become the knowledge, since you are to become my brother, it is not fitting for you to be ignorant of yourself. And I, the knowledge of truth, your subconscious being, it records everything is true. I, the knowledge of self, knowledge of truth. So while you're walking with me, though you lack understanding, already you have obtained knowledge, and you will be called one. You have obtained knowledge, and you will be called one who knows himself. For those who have not known themselves have known nothing. But those who have known themselves already have acquired the knowledge or the gnosis about the depth of all. So then, my brother Thomas, have you seen what is hidden from the people and what they stumble against in their ignorance? And then he goes into the aspect of the visible and the hidden. Page 239 in the Nag Hammadi scriptures. The revised and updated translations of the sacred Gnostic text completed in 1 volume. Great book. All right, cool. So we're gonna go into this hidden aspect. The hidden and the visible. Thomas said to the master, Thomas said, I said to my subconscious. So when I read this, I was like, I said to my subconscious, this is why I beg you to tell me what I asked before your ascension. When I hear from you, when I hear from you about what is hidden, I can when I hear about what is hidden, I can speak of it. And it is clear to me that the truth is difficult to accomplish before people. The Savior answered and said, it is what is visible to you is if what is visible to you is obscure to you, how can you comprehend what is invisible? If the deeds of truth visible in the world are difficult for you to accomplish, how will you accomplish the things that are exalted in majesty and fullness, which are invisible? How will you be called workers? You are beginners and have not attained the greatness of perfection. The greatness of perfection. You have not obtained what we see now. People have not truly obtained what they needed to obtain. Yeah. People have not obtained what it is they need to obtain yet. And you see this because if they did, the separation module would not still be within effect based upon unifying on the humanity aspect, staying stuck within this space. Everybody wants to talk about this. The fact that my air conditioning was on 70 degrees and I had to take it down to 78, it's getting hot. So you take this aspect into your mentality of how you move forward in your mind. That shadow work that is so very fucking important for motherfuckers to kick into. At a certain point in time, you keep acquiring the information, but if you're not applying it to the aspects that come up, this is where people get lost in, yo, man, I did this spell and it didn't work, or my this and this. They don't understand the intention. If your intention is powered by what has your attention. Your intention is powered by what has your attention. So if my intention is to be rich or whatever it may be, I want to have rich, I want to have money, I want to be balling. But my attention is still stuck. My attention or my identity, my ego is still stuck within the oppression module. Then everything that my intention touches is going to, like, when I bring down that, whenever I invoke my energy, it don't matter what deity I call up, whatever I call upon and bring down, it's going to naturally do what it's supposed to do. It's energy. It's supposed to bring light to whatever is next. It's supposed to bring light to anything that is within that space to set your attention upon. So if I want to be wealthy, if I want to look better, if I want to work out, so I go to the gym, the first thing my body does is break down. The first thing, my muscle must break down. All my muscle must break down. There's no way in the hell I'm going to the gym, I'm going for a run, I'm thinking that I'm going to come out looking like fucking Adonis. It's not going to happen. I have to go through the process. This is where people get knocked off in their shadow work. This is where people get knocked off and truly becoming into their enlightenment phase. Allowing that shit to come in. Because the shit that starts bubbling up to the surface, that septic, that cesspool, that shit that you have packed down into that septic tank called your humanity, the shit box, the shit that's been pushed down within that on top of your soul comes up first. You can send down Ridex and all the fuck you want down in there. All that shit got to come up. That's the shit that got to be dealt with first. So you cannot acquire or have your subconscious programming and have that conversation with your subconscious because you program your subconscious based upon all truth. So it don't matter what information you take in and you want to be woke, I want to be this and this and this, you still stuck on the aspect of hating against white people. Bobby Hemmett told us. Pull out my other water. Bobby Hemmett told us and brought that information to the light that the shit's gonna be in books that you ain't gonna read. So you got one or two motherfucking choices. Either you can wait until somebody of your hue writes a book about the information and brings it out, but then now you're going to be looking for them to bring you the information every fucking day. Or you can go to the source of where the information's at. They stole our shit. Go get your shit back. They can't use it. They only can use it to an intellectual aspect. Just like anybody in your life. People only can use the information that they have at the point in time based on the space where they're at. You ever dealt with somebody that no matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter what you bring to the surface, whatever you say or do, they only can bring up the shit that they only knew you about? They bring the same alcohol, they bring the same bottles over, they bring the same shit that you used to do, and they always talk about the good old days. I remember when we used to do this, That's incubus mentality. That's incubus mentality. You're being seduced by the incubus. Your homeboy that wants you to go, let's go have a protest, is activating within the incubus mentality. Let's reincarnate, or let's keep incubating within this space to keep us right there. Past presentation, exactly. Keep us right locked in that space. Let's keep us right here. This was our golden years. This was our golden. Let's keep doing this right here. Let's keep, we can stand up for our people and all this stuff. Let's go back to the aspect when I said, if you keep saying your people are lost, you're telling yourself that you are lost. You just have to be humble to accept that you are lost. You got to accept the negative aspect to come into the reality of your rejected aspects. The rejected aspects or the indoctrination, that's the shit that you got to understand and remove the negative aspects. The positive of that, in the first indoctrination of you coming into religion or whatever it may have been that came into your space, that is what's connecting you to your identity. So for you to deny this aspect, this exists. This exists to do exactly what it's supposed to do, to keep you out of the aspect of getting deeper into yourself. So when we have people talking about, so when you have somebody coming to you and they only can bring up these older aspects, the reason that they keep bringing up the older aspects is because you haven't yet learned about the older aspects and why they exist. I said this during Meditate and Elevate. If somebody continuously comes to you with the same shit and you haven't learned how to detach, but I've known them for 5 years, 16 years, I knew them since kindergarten or whatever, you haven't learned from those aspects that they keep bringing to you, why they're there in the first place. You programmed them to be there. You made all of these decisions based upon algorithms to have them come down into this space where they show up at, based on the choices that you will make, based on those parallels that you get into. And to perfect that parallel and make it to become transparent so that energy is now yours, everything that comes up when you call that energy to you, because you unconsciously call your energy back to you every time you go back to an ex, every time you deal with a friend that ain't doing shit, every time you stay in that relationship for too long, you calling your energy back to you unconsciously. You don't realize that you're calling your energy back to you, so now you don't know what to do with it when it happens, when the shit hits the fucking fan. And then you create a level of existence. I'm going to go into an aspect of the bad boy and the bad bitch and these aspects. The aspect of the bad boy, I've said it before, I would be the definition of a true bad boy because I'm outside of the paradigm of what is to be good within the confines of an older restraint of myself. I'm no longer in that space. So I have to be one or the other for them to have an aspect to understand it. You become that aspect or that nexus point that we always break down, that nexus point that they must be humble in order to come through that door to understand why you doing what the fuck you doing. It's not up to you to explain it or convince them what the fuck you really doing. How you doing it, your moves, what you making, how you putting yourself together. It ain't up to them. They had their time to shine. They had their season. When you continuously go back to these spaces, it shows that you need more shadow work. If you continuously feed these spaces after you go into that space, it's showing you what you're connected to based upon, I don't want to be alone. The biggest thing from us motherfuckers is understanding that, yo, this is a lonely ass fucking path, but it's fucking lit because it's not truly fucking lonely. It's lonely in the aspects of need and want. It's lonely on the aspects of needing and wanting. Because the deeper that you get in, the more you realize you don't really need shit. The deeper that you get in, the realize the more you don't really want anything. This is where we get into the arrogance of Adalderoth and the whole creation behind him being that blind demiurge, that deity, in creating those 7 chaoses of heaven. And they have a masculine and a feminine archetype. They have a masculine and a feminine archetype. They're polarities. The 7 chaoses of heaven are polarities. Those are the initial polarities. The masculine aspect being the knowledge and the feminine aspect being the nurturing of it. What nurtures this aspect of understanding to it? As we flip to, where is that book? The Origin of the World. The 7 heavens of chaos. The 7 androgynous beings appeared in the chaos. And they have masculine names and feminine names. It means they have a masculine archetype, feminine archetype. They have the gender. Adalderoth's feminine name is Forethought. Sambatas, which designates the weak. His son is called Yao. His feminine name is Mastery. Sabaoth, the feminine name is Divinity. Adonios, the feminine name is Kingship. Elois, the feminine name is Envy. Aureus is the feminine name is Wealth. And Asapatios, the feminine name is Sophia, or the great mother of that aspect. So this, when it boils down, when you start boiling it down and you start getting connected to these little aspects of yourself and locking yourself in based upon one side or the other, you're just on one side, not understanding the other side. That masculine archetype, when we get into this masculine archetype of energy based upon the wounded, and the feminine archetype based upon the wounded feminine and masculine archetypes. I'm the feminine energy, the divine feminine, the natural feminine aspects, unconditional love, understanding, nurturing, tenderness, kindness, intuitive, creative, feeling, stillness, flow, radiance, surrender, sensitivity, emotional ease, and allowing. The natural masculine, confidence, inner strength, responsibility, focus, logical, support, stability, direction, protection, clarity, boundaries, courage, discipline, capable, certain, and assertive. Remember, the feminine is supposed to become you in that feminine archetype. You got to understand the negative aspects or the wounded aspects of yourself. So when you coming down here and then you understand this timeline that's synonymous on that wavelength, now you understand. Now you can have a deeper understanding of why everything fell into place based upon an algorithm. You get past this aspect of it's an agenda against the black man, for the black woman to be against the black man, and all that shit. That was 1970s. That was the 1970 aspect. That is a time-dated aspect based upon intellectual information. Information, knowledge is infinite, therefore knowledge becomes redundant. That means that same process that you carried on ever since 1962 and then carried in the 1980s, into the 1990s, into the 2000s, that's what they're activating upon. They're still activating against the old paradigm of knowledge. Motherfuckers are not applying the new aspects of the knowledge. So I said it the other week, if you're invested into the holdings of the old information, the old knowledge, the old information, and you have not, every time you get a return on it, you haven't learned how to turn it into new assets and learn how to put it in, charge it into your savings and put it into your expenses as you apply yourself to go forward. If you haven't done that work, that necessary shadow work, as that happens, every time you invest in new energy, you're using it to move shit around and make yourself better, you start seeing that everything is naturally a reflection of this happening over and over and over again. You start seeing, damn, that shit just keep happening over and over and over and fuck again. Why does it keep happening? Why do we keep going through the same shit? Because you living in the same paradigm. The way that I put the natural feminine and the natural masculine aspects, the divine aspects together, when I line them up, and these can interconnect to each other. Unconditional love brings the ultimate confidence. That's the counterpart. So when you have somebody that's within their confidence, but then you have conditions based on your love, or if you're still in the wounded aspect, you be played a victim to this person having a confidence about themselves, or if they're in that wounded aspect, they become the predator. So since you're trying to find that need and want without looking for it inside of yourself, when you have somebody in front of you that's showing assertiveness through aggression or through the lower levels of energy to themselves, that bad boy mentality, the drug dealer mentality, the bad boy, the drug dealer, the rapper, the whatever mentality, and then now you naturally see why on the other end of the wounded aspect, the unhealed sex worker, on that aspect, you see why that video exists. You see why, okay, cool. They're demonstrating the aspects of being wounded, and you don't have to accept this. You don't have to accept anything. Be who you are. If you're stuck on the lower level within the 3D program, then you'll look at that and be like, that's an issue. When you in that 5D level, that's how that whole fucking, I saw the video, that whole video, I got an astral realm program just like that. That's where Kali goes. That's why I'm fucking with Kali. That's why I'm fucking with the Shiva. That's why I'm fucking with all these higher archetypes of the feminine aspects of energy. That's how I'm interfacing with them anyway. Because I already have my sustaining. In the God realm, I don't have to eat. In the God realm, I don't feed the way that you feed based upon humanity. So that aspect of understanding in that video makes sense. I'm like, nigga, okay. Let me go through these doors real quick. Let me run through this space real quick. Take it and use it as I can use it. I'm not spending time going back and forth, because that it shows that I'm now giving energy to the trends. Because now that I'm in that space or in that mindset, now I have to find things that connect to that mindset or connect to that space. I got to find something to fight for within that space. I got to find something to be my protagonist and be my antagonist. I'm pro this, so I'm anti that. I'm anti this, so I'm pro this. I'll be sitting there. That's like me sitting there on a fucking petition talking about, that's like me sitting there on a petition. Yo, they need to ban rap music because it is the fuck. They already tried to do that shit. It didn't fucking work. That's like me putting out a petition on stupid shit. Let me write this petition, and if I get all these signatures or all this energy into this petition, it can move forward. Unconsciously moving forward, by putting my energy into something that is not going to benefit me on the level that I'm trying to go to. We get stuck within that aspect based upon your when you're not doing your shadow work, you get stuck within those spaces of I'm alone. I don't want to be alone. I ain't got no friends. I ain't got no family. If you want family, you'll have family when you get to the next level. If you need the friend, that soul tribe aspect, that's at the next level. You holding down to these aspects down here, these are the lower or the negative aspects of the rejected aspect, exactly, the distraction. These are the negative aspects of what you need to understand what a true family is, what the truth, going from the soul tribes to your soul tribe. You have to graduate. I'm not trying to build with, my mindset's not building with individuals that are still stuck within the humanity that have not done their necessary works. That's something that I can't do. I can do it, but then I'll find myself coming right back here reincarnated. We don't reincarnate, we incarnate. Come down for the reason that we need to come down here and leave. Some people on their first, some people on their second, some people on their third trip, some people on their fourth and fifth trip. And they keep falling into the same pitfalls and the same distractions that keep getting them stuck because they haven't allowed their ego to die within that space. There's people right now that cannot approach me to save their fucking life. I'm the easiest person to talk to on the planet. At least for me, I am. It's just that you get to a level to where everybody's going to ask you that question of what it truly is. And you can't give an answer based upon the enlightenment. When it's truly in the aspects of enlightenment, you can tell what it is. I can give the story, the personal aspects, the story is what it is, based on the experience, and I can break down the experience and what it did, but you can't explain the aspect because there's no human vocabulary to explain it. When I was in that wounded aspect of myself, acting in that wounded space, I withheld information. I got to a point every time I got to a relationship, I withheld information. I would constantly say I felt powerless. I would constantly say I was my weakness. Girl, you my weakness. I would constantly manipulate by saying that they're my weakness. I would constantly put them in a state of reflecting them needing something from me by creating something or incubating something that they would need from me. Whether they needed a place to stay or they needed a ride somewhere or they needed this, and that, and the above. This stimulated my identity of saying that I was independent. The only reason that I was independent because I had somebody that was within codependency. The only reason that I could be independent or stand in the aspect of being independent is because I had somebody that was in the need of codependency for something. I constantly searched for, on that same polarity, somebody that was in codependency and needed something. That's the wounded mentality, to look for somebody that needs something from you, to need the attention of others based on them needing something from you. And since you aren't doing the necessary work internally inside of yourself to get yourself in order, they're not doing the same thing because you programmed them to stay there based upon codependency. You became codependent based upon the trauma. They didn't know this and they're not doing that. I know people right now that are doing the same exact fucking shit that they've done the last fucking 5-6 years. Last 5-6 years doing the same shit. They've been doing it so long, they got gray hairs. They're upset with the world. They feel like the world owes them something. The world don't owe you shit. That's your reality. That's your reality check, your ego death. The world don't owe you shit. wanting something from a space, wanting something from a parallel, from a dimension that was a subpart of you that has is as that is the elements of you and is not doesn't have the aspect to give you what you truly need, gives me the aspect, man, I gotta go deeper within myself. So looking at those wounded aspects, since now I was unconsciously not realizing that I was acting in the wounded feminine aspect, the masculine aspect was activated within the feminines or the queens that I was with. The bartering system, the back stuff, abusing their power, the showing up to my house unannounced. These are aspects that help me learn. The aspect of popping up to my house unannounced, wanting a key, feeling that they could say certain things because they could, because they were in a certain space. That abuse of power is based upon ownership. I own you because you need something from me. I don't need anything. The same thing I tell everybody that shit. I've said that shit at my job so many fucking times during fucking conversations. Motherfuckers want to have don't not have a conversation with me. I don't argue. I'm just going to give you the facts. Somebody said something. I was like, you don't need me before I need you. Shot to their ego. Shoots my ego. Because my ego now has to succeed if I truly need something from them. The things that I would say are naturally shooting at the fucking ego. Now that I'm in that healed state of myself, after understanding these negative aspects of myself, what I was connected to, the aspects of we are a people and we are unified and we are all lost, that doesn't fit me anymore. That aspect of being lost, I'm not lost. So I can't stay within that paradigm and feed within that paradox of being lost. I know what being lost feels like, so I can acknowledge the lost aspect. I've forgiven myself, my inner child, that child that activates inside, that the inner child, the laughter, everything that you see Dragon Ball Z with them two little niggas in the what's it called, tournament, that's your inner child. I can understand why you feel lost. And that is my compassion. No jealousy, no envy, no envious thoughts. I have an understanding. Since I have that balance of understanding, if I come into the picture, that means you are willing to accept. You have now humbled yourself enough internally, whether you realize it or not, that you need this aspect. That's why I'm here. That's why someone appears into your space. There's an aspect from them that you need to learn and usher on. When you come to a certain point in your healing and you're in that divine setting of yourself, when you say things to a person that is acting in that wounded mentality, trying to always be that perpetuator, try to establish that dominance, always have that control or that dominance over aspects of their life, you're actually able to start seeing them. But so if I look at the narcissistic module, a narcissist is simply somebody that wants to teach, but does not want to take in their own information. I acted in a narcissistic mindset at a point in time. I was willing to say whatever. I was willing to say what I said, but when it came to me taking that information in, I didn't take the information in. It's the aspect everybody has used that narcissistic module about talking to their friend about working on themselves, talking to this person about they aren't listening to me. When they're not listening to you, it's a reflection of you not listening to yourself. The reason that the people keep coming up around you that are not listening to themselves, they don't listen to the information that you're saying, and they simply want the quick fix, is because you're looking for the quick fix. They're a reflection of something. They're a reflection of the inner conflict within yourself that you are not yet ascended or passed from. There's something that is invisible that you need to bring to the surface. That internal you The aspect of something that is invisible inside of you that you have not worked on, you must bring to the surface. That means you got to dig deeper. That's why every time somebody comes around and you feeling tired, you feeling distraught, they done drained all your fucking energy. The only way they can still drain from your energy is if you have not yet learned to apply what you need to apply. You're not applying the aspects of your balance. You still want to help. You still want to give $1 to the person over there, or give $20 to this person over here, or do something for this person over here. I just want to help the world. If that's what you're down here for, that's what you're down here for. But if you keep getting the same result every time that you help the world, it's a reflection of you need to start helping yourself. You really need to start going into yourself. That first act of selfishness, setting those boundaries for yourself, setting the boundaries for the paradigm that you need to set. That first time that you do it, that first wave of going through it, is going to bring up so much shit in your shadow work. The first time you initiate that ritual, your first aspects of you being selfish is going to unlock so much shit. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Stop looking for this result based upon good. Start looking at the result, whether it's positive or negative. That way you're able to create your new compass, and whether it served you or if it didn't serve you. So me saying to somebody, no, I'm not going here, or no, I'm not doing that, in their reaction, for me, it was positive. To them, it was a negative. I get a negative reaction from them. That negative reaction served me a purpose. So it hits my compass up. It served me a purpose. Now, every time that I'm in that space, I know that if I say this to this person, they're going to react this way. All I can control is how I move based on what I say. Man, you didn't switched up. You didn't change. You didn't did. Man, you ain't going out no more. You ain't doing this no more. Why don't you? Because I no longer need it. I've learned how to create it in my own self. I don't need that aspect inside of me anymore. This goes into the aspects of using psychedelics, drugs, and all of these aspects. When you go through that space, you go through that time of whatever addiction it may be, it was an aspect for you to learn what you were when you were in that space. Now that you're out of the space, now that you're out of that space or out of that side of the parallel, now I'm no longer an addict, I'm on this end. What do I do now? Now you have to look back, your table of contents, all of that information, everything you did while you were in that state of being. Everything that you were in while you were in that state of being, based upon the fear of yourself. Now that you're on the other end of the polarity, now you're demonstrating love to yourself. So everything that was based upon fear, those little fast knee-jerk reactions based upon feeling, now that you're going through that love aspect of finding the love of yourself, all of the aspects that are still within that bar based upon the fear, all of these things naturally come up first. All of those triggers and traumas based upon the fear archetypes that were laid based upon the indoctrination come up first. They have to come up because they got to come out and they got to fall off. But you got to understand them shits first. So that friend that you always was around, every time your boyfriend did this or every time your girlfriend did this, and they never liked any of your boyfriends, or your homeboy never liked none of your girlfriends. There's only two reasons somebody don't like somebody. Only two reasons somebody don't like somebody. Based on humanity terms that I've come to learn. Either they can't use them or they can't get to them. They can't use them or they can't get to them. They cannot manipulate them the way that they manipulate you. They can't use the old tactics against you that they've used before of the wounded archetype against that new divine source of true masculine or true feminine energy. They can't use it. So they can't no longer distract you by saying, hey, I need to go do this or this, this, and this. That's why whenever you start going into yourself and working on yourself and doing the shit that you need to do for yourself, the first thing that pop up is everybody that's like, damn, I couldn't do that, or I couldn't do this, or I couldn't do this, or I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that, or I couldn't do this. I can't do that part. Who says you can't? That's the reason that they're there. They're, now that you have come into the true version of yourself, you're coming into the true reality of yourself. Now that you're able to move through in the love of yourself, that slower algorithm that's able to destroy, because love is a very destructive force. Fear is a bonding force. Love is a destructive force. It destructs to recreate. That's the Pitches of Sophia. That great book that breaks that down. We're going to get into that too. So when you're in that aspect in your reality and you start seeing people like, I don't like this person, I don't like that person, I don't like this person, I always pose this question. If they were always there for they were always there with you when you were down, and they were with you when you were in a come up, or now pay attention to how they were there with you based upon the come up. Were they based with you based upon the come up of yourself, based upon the perception that you projected upon them of what that symbolized of the definition was? Or were they only there based upon the definition that you created? This makes you think like they were there for a reason for you to learn from. This helps you become more unaffected when you have to make the moves that you got to make. When you got to start being the villain. When you got to start making sense as the villain. When you got to stop saying, you know what, I'm staying home tonight. When you got to say, what, no, you know what, I'm a turn in early tonight. When I got to wake up in the morning and meditate. I got to wake up in the morning and do my grounding. I got to wake up in the morning and I got to set my disciplines in the morning. I ain't got time for that. Because now the natural aspects of how they used to connect to you no longer can show. It no longer can be used. And this gives you into greater understanding. And this is how you learn how to forgive yourself for the shit that you did based on being in that aspect. Now you are now acknowledging the rejected aspects of what you indoctrinated yourself into. So when we look at the indoctrinated aspects, everything that came down in that indoctrinated aspect was something that was meant to, was a footnote or that footnote for you to actually learn from. So for motherfuckers to sit there in that aspect and say, fuck Jesus, I'm past that point now, humbly to myself. How can I say fuck Jesus? I'm saying fuck myself. 1 second. Ugh. All right, we have returned. Sorry about that mic drop. That was an incidental mic drop. Should have dropped the wand on the damn keyboard. I don't want that fuck up. So if I say fuck Jesus, I'm naturally saying fuck myself because there's attributes within Jesus that I'm supposed to be learning from. Not in the aspect of it being. Here's one aspect that has always, when I got to that point, because I had that point. I was like, no matter what, I couldn't let go of something, isn't it? If I read and take in the information that we created everything, we've been here for millions and millions of years and lifetimes and keep coming through. It would be asinine for me to give my power to somebody else, to give somebody something that I need to create. The reason that they have it is because it's an aspect or a negative aspect that locks into my indoctrination or my original coming down here. It's back in my ship, how I came down here in the first place. So they use it based on the intellectual connection to me. You can say they need a whole book to understand you, to work better with you. So how can I, if I understand it's a chakra story, it's an entire fucking chakra story. I can use that as one interpretation. It's a chakra story. The root chakra, born in the manger aspect. So I'm rooted within that shit based upon survival and everything that's based upon the root chakra. My confidence in myself, in my works, and everything that I do that makes me me. My power is within that aspect. So how can I say or listen to somebody that says that's a creation by the creation? If I created this aspect, this negative anatome, that means it can't take in anything else. It's negative. In order to get to my rejected self, I must use this tool. It is a tool to come back into my center. Come back into my center. To understand, this is how the centering goes. So this negative aspect, there's two negative aspects on the outside. And the center is my true self. That means I have to understand this aspect and how this aspect connect to unlock my true self, my middle point. I got to find my middle point. I went into this in the podcast. My middle point. I got to find the middle point. The middle point is my chi, your balance, your ka, all of these aspects, your kundalini energy to balance and shoot that shit up your fucking spine. So if my mind is stuck on one side and not on the other side, I'm picking a side. Yeah, I'm all about Jesus and this stupid shit. Nigga, the white man and Jesus and this and this. And on the other aspect, I'm a God and I'm all these things over here. So I got this knowledge of myself, and then I got the nurturing aspect of it, of what has been nurtured, and fundamentally the razzle-dazzle of the pageantry, what it's been boiled down to based on the intellectual concept. These two concepts are needed for me to bring myself into balance. So if somebody says to me, fuck Jesus, but I have a deeper understanding, remember, if I'm smart to you, if I'm not smart to you, I'm dumb to you if you ain't as smart as me. So if I take the aspects like I am the Christos energy, I am the Christ, I am the Christos energy, this is me, that is what I am. That means everything that I read that got Jesus in it, or the word Jesus in it, naturally is about me. So in order for me to absorb that information and actually let it absorb and take it in, I have to humble myself and forgive myself for saying fuck Jesus. The angry state of consciousness that I was in at that point in time. I have to become aware. Now that I'm aware that I'm awake, now I actually have to wake up. It's cute to scream that you are aware. Because I can probably in the next 4 or 5 years, motherfuckers gonna start saying, yes, everything, basically you're replaced with your name. Because you're understanding that the first aspect in understanding that you are a god or a goddess, or you want to use the androgynous aspect, you're the generator, operator, and destroyer. Everything that says something with God in it, or Jesus, or whatever aspect, entity, whatever it is, you read it as yourself. If it resonates with you, you are on your path. You are in your space where you are on the path. Damn, I like that story. I like that story about myself. How does it connect to me? How can I use it in my everyday life? Many of us have been through many fucking rebirths. This is the aspect of the Oya aspect. When you get into the Orishas, Oya is the entity explaining rebirth and death. Go further back into the Kemetic aspects. You go into Anpu or Anubis. He's the aspect of that prepares the body for the becoming of the day. Masculine and feminine archetype. That's how they can connect. Instead of looking for the separation, you're supposed to look for the contradiction to see how they connect. You can now you start building, you start understanding the polarities that you're standing on, or the intellectual concepts that become your floor. All the information that you take in, that's just your floor. You just keep building and building hardwood floors. You got a whole fucking basketball fucking court. You didn't stained it. You didn't pull it up. You didn't put your name in the middle. You didn't make that shit look real fresh. You didn't put a visitor board up. You didn't put bleachers up. But you ain't built the building. Most motherfuckers are stuck in the fucking drive. Most motherfuckers don't even realize that they're on the wrong. You're on the street in front of your fucking house, and you ain't even got into your house yet. And you can tell motherfuckers they ain't got into their house yet because they're not sustaining anything based upon actually investing their information. Can they stand on their information and actually build something upon it without using the energy that is in motion of others? That energy and keeping everybody's energy riled up so they can now feed from it. So they can keep building their nice little hardwood floors. Building their hardwood floor, locking their shit down, putting their shit in that fucking space. It sounds nice. It sounds fine. It sounds dandy. Yo, man, you got to get to this level to understand this level. You got to. That's all wounded mentality. It's abuse of power. My first thing the end of the thing that I said, at the end of every fucking podcast, I just want you to be fucking great. The beginning of every podcast, I chant the same spell at the beginning of every podcast. If you've not listened to the God Hour podcast, I say, Grand Rise, Divine Rise, Blessed be. May the day be everything that it needs, everything that you need in order to create what you desire. Whether you're an adept, an initiate, a bruja, whatever level that you are at, be the best at it in that space. If you hate something within that space or you have a lack of understanding for it, learn that shit. Once you learn that aspect, now you can embrace that shit. Now that you are embracing it, you are now showing the love for that shit. Now you have the compassion and the understanding to use that energy because you have created that transparency needed for that energy to feed to you. Most people keep that aspect of staying on one side or the other of each side of the coin. Keeping you on one side or the other of the fucking coin. That way you never have the transparency to use that energy for yourself. You can never find your middle point because you stuck on one side or the other. You stuck on, motherfuckers are stuck on whether Beyonce, whatever the fuck, Beyonce and fucking whatever other video come out. I'm like, why? Why? If I can't apply it, it doesn't. If it cannot be applied at that point in time for me, then it ain't for me. That's cool. That's fine. That's dandy. But I refuse to sit there and put myself in a space. I've done too much fucking shadow work to go backwards. I'm not going to backslide intentionally. I'm not going to go back to something intentionally unless I need to understand something from there. This goes into the aspects of the indoctrination. Your rejected aspects. The reason certain people can't let go of friends, family, places that they always go to, all of these events, is because they're based upon their indoctrination. Your family's based upon the algorithm of your indoctrination. Your friends are based upon the indoctrination of the indoctrination of what you were indoctrinated under. You get a body, you get these lessons, the Sanskrit about you coming into a human body. All of these aspects have now become putrid. They're putrid to everything that you need to do now. But from that putrid aspect, that's what you're learning from. From those ashes, that phoenix aspect arises. So if I'm inside of this space and I'm over here mad at somebody doing something for you never gonna do right and da 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 da, that's why I hate you and da 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 da. you don't have a lack of understanding for that aspect of where it's coming from. That's why you hate them. It's impossible for me to hate anybody. I can get irritated, but if I get irritated, it's like streamlined compared to being angry at somebody for not understanding something, because it's now showing me something maybe I don't understand something. Maybe I'm not seeing something. Maybe there's an aspect that I need to, maybe this is an aspect now that it keeps coming up and I understand it and I know I understand it. I've had my enlightening in that space. Maybe it's time for me to either speak on it and teach to it and plant a seed, or leave that shit barren. Either I'm going to plant a seed or I'm going to leave that shit barren. Leave that shit where the fuck it is. The archetype of doing everything for yourself, holding yourself accountable, holding yourself into responsibility, playing with your scientific experiments of, let me say this to this person and let's see what happens. That's only after you've already created the ritual inside of your mind and repeated the ritual over and over and over again. I got excited. I got geeked today because I lit the candles on the altar. I did some roll opener work. I did some protection work. I did some abundance work on some new shit that I'm working on. Shit started kicking in almost immediately. I got new shit coming in all day. Started doing all these little aspects, working on my shit around me. And I'm like, I went outside. It got real smoky in the fucking apartment. It was like probably 11:15 in the morning. I walked outside. I was like, I tried to meditate in front of the altar, fell out. Spirit said, go outside. So I grabbed all my stones, walked outside, got my little towel, laid my towel out, had my head down, locks down. I'm just sitting there. I'm just out there in the fucking grass and shit, ants crawling around and shit. None of the ants are biting me. They're just lying on my leg. They're into that. I'm tuning into that energetic field. My field is naturally being done. And I'm out there and I just have a nice little calming moment to myself. I'm like, yo, I like this shit. I came back in. The energy that I invoked in my space already was getting real heavy before it made myself some fucking lunch. I felt the energy get heavy. So I knew that the new energy that I was invoking was pulling down, and the sage and everything that I burnt was like chilling out the negative aspect. So it got real heavy. It got real hard to breathe. And I opened up the doors and everything lined up and did what it was supposed to do. Did the work that I needed to do. This is a part of the acceptance of accepting, because now you become more intuitive. This is training your intuitive aspects after you've done that necessary shadow work. Until you've done the shadow work, all the information that you take in, it now only feeds and holsters to your trauma. It now only entices and incubates your trauma. The new knowledge that you take in, that incubus aspect, it don't matter if you meditate. If you meditate and ain't doing no fucking shadow work, all you're doing is incubating your identity and your ego to live. If you down there in that aspect and now you've incubated it, now that incubus aspect is now bypassed, and now you went to the succubus aspect. Now you have the good feeling of what you just did, and you didn't do no fucking shadow work. You're not doing the fucking work that you need to do with the energy that you pulled down. That succubus making you feel good about what you're doing. You're gonna go out there and, yeah, I did this right here, and I'm woke, and I'm this. You gonna heart and like every fucking aspect when somebody says some negative shit. That's truly only aspects of negative. We gotta save our people. Nigga, save yourself. I thought the whole aspect was to save yourself. Because if I understand that everything is a reflection of me based on the program, and if I continue speaking that aspect or spell or invoking, save my people, but in my mind is already information. Now my ego searches for the information, and now it's confusing me, or trying to keep me in that space, locked into that space. Yeah, you got to save your people. You got to make sure your people are good. You got to do this, this, and this for your people. If I walked into an apartment complex or into a hood and I spent $3.5 million in a fucking apartment complex and made that shit look real sweet, real nice, that shit will go down in less than a fucking year because everybody's still in there, still in the old mindset. So who am I really truly saving? I made myself look good. I fed upon making them look good, all the speeches and having motherfuckers pitch in and saying, yeah, he doing some good work. And I might get some photo ops and all of that shit. I might get some likes and shit, but I really didn't do anything. Because in order for me to sustain that reality, they got to stay in the same space that they're in. They got to stay at the other end of the polarity. They can't come over here. Some may come over, then they're going to start asking me questions. And then I'm going to start saying the quintessential woke shit. Yeah, you got to get to a certain level to understand these things. And you gotta balance your mind. But I'm not giving them any answers on how to structure or build themselves. Because I haven't structured or built myself to a certain level. I haven't let go of or become humble to the aspect that if I bring them up, I'm not going to be what I am. If they come up, I can't be who I am because now they're at the level where I'm at. So now I'm lost in the sauce. So then you take on that blind deity, the Adulterbroth archetype. So now that you are now, so what you see now is a lot of motherfuckers are Adulterbroths. They're these deities, they are the Adulterbroth, they are that archon aspect of energy, of archetype. Whether they are conscious of it or they're not. That's what they are. That ties them into the 7 aspects, the 7 chaoses. The aspect of envy, the aspect of wealth, the aspect of kingship, divinity. Now they're going to speak to you about divinity, but they have not true understanding of the knowledge of what divinity truly is. They have the aspect of what wealth, they'll tell you about wealth, but they don't give you the true aspects of what wealth truly entails. They'll give you the aspect of wealth, but they're giving you the aspect of being rich. They're going to give you the bottom 3 chakras. Something that's going to give you something to root in, or root for, to based on your survival. Something that's going to give you a confidence to root for based upon what you're rooted on your survival. Something that's going to give you power that's rooted in based upon your survival. And now you need them because they need you. They don't know how to charge themselves or truly charge themselves. And they keep pulling that energy down, and they keep pulling this energy down, feeding, and then it trickles down to you. Now it's coming down to you slowly, and now things are starting to happen, and you're starting, yeah, I seen this and I seen this, because you're still stuck within the old paradigm because you have not unlocked yourself from the indoctrination. That indoctrination process, what you originally came in under. That's how where you started is where you're going, where you need to begin. This goes into the aspect when you think about the Black community, and either they get out of the hood and don't come back, or they struggle and they have that hope monologue in their whole fucking life. They have this hope monologue in their life, and all you're doing is passing on the hope to somebody else. You get to a certain point, it didn't work for you, you want to pass the hope on to somebody else. You pass on that baton of hope, that baton of wishing, that baton of, I wish and I hope that you're able to do this. Everybody pray for me. Nope. Everybody send me some energy. Nope. That selfish aspect is needed. Because if you give somebody your energy that has not paid off their karmic debt, guess what? You now acquire their debt. This is an aspect based upon shadow work that a lot of people do based on their not rejecting themselves. By keeping your friends, by keeping your family, by keeping certain individuals around you that are projections that are now are become conduits of what you're tethered to based upon your energy working inside that space, keeping them in that reality, in that space. Now that they're there, now that they're doing what they're doing, saying what they're saying, acting the same exact way, because you program them to act the same exact way. You haven't taken in the information and used it into yourself. That's why they're doing the same exact same thing. That's why they're doing the same exact shit that they're fucking doing. And then when you come up to those levels, you got motherfuckers that be niggas, them archons and them ages, man. They don't want us to perspire, man. They don't want us to rise as a people. Hi, my name is Papa Luci. I am an occult motivational speaker, spiritual life coach, counselor, therapist, upon many of my works. I teach, I counsel, I coach, and I give clarity through these aspects. I want you to surpass me because that's the only way I'm going to learn something else. It sounds good if you're not doing, so if you're not doing your shadow work, here's the benefit of not doing your shadow work. I'm looking at some shit. Here's the benefit of not doing your shadow work, or where your shadow work, your motherfucker's not doing their shadow work. You're easily distracted. It don't matter what meditation you do, how much energy you invoke. You can sit there and play with crystals and all types of shit. You can do whatever you want. But if you ain't doing the shadow work with that energy that you're bringing down, if you ain't bringing down that energy, you ain't bringing that energy down. You bringing that energy down and putting it in the same old shit. You're not doing anything. That's why the shit keep acting the way that it acts. That aspect of needing and wanting based upon humanity, that natural source always needs and wants. It's always in a longing for needing and wanting. So I pull down energy over the last couple of weeks. And I got investments going on now. I got new investments. I got I've done the necessary sacrifices to be within that space. So I've already created one of my mentors that I work for at a little old restaurant called Aspen Creek. Coolest Italian that you'll ever meet. He was like, you got to be in that mindset before you even physically there. You got to be in that mindset before you even physically there. In order to be in that mindset, the disciplines that you cultivate and you move yourself in are naturally going to bring out the aspects within that physical realm that are needed to be let go of based upon understanding. So there was shit that I was doing at that point in time where I was living in that fucking moment, but it was based on physical aspects. Like I got the truck, I got the bomb ass crib, I got all of this shit. The truck, the crib, I was riding around, but I wasn't getting my home in order. I wasn't getting myself in order. So when I was doing these things, that ego death that came in that hit me hard as fuck is when I lost that fucking job. I lost that job due to doing what I was told to do within that space. I lost that job doing what I was supposed to do, what I was told to do based in that space, but out of lack of understanding. Because I was still trying to perpetuate being the ultimate guy at that space. When keeping it real and doing your morality goes wrong. So I'm in that space, doing what I'm supposed to do, but then I'm not, oh my God, I can't do it anymore. I can't do this anymore. I can't, no. And I got lost in the sauce. After that space, that was one of my first actual ego deaths. But it was based upon me being unconscious, unaware that it was an ego death. It wasn't until that last moment about 5-6 years ago, when I was dancing in the realm of being aware and being conscious, I was dancing in that realm. And I was like, I said to myself, I was having that conversation with myself during the meditation. I was like, I want more. And I remember I told myself, I was like, nigga, are you ready for more? I was like, of course I'm ready for more, nigga. I'm a guy, nigga, king, all this shit, da 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 da. I was like, all right, bet. When I look back at myself, I was like, all right, bet. You ready? I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Bring that shit to me. Bring that shit on. Everything went away. Everything went away in order for me to reach that state of cracking that negative aspect of myself. I can no longer feed within that space because the energy that I was pulling down at that time was removing shit. It was destroying shit. Every time I brought it down, every time that I had that aspect, every time I was doing fucking minor shit, I was just simply, at this time I was meditating. I didn't realize how powerful I was, my strength, these aspects about myself. I didn't realize how strong I was, how that power that I had. I was still within that. I was aware that I was in some shit, but I was still invoking this energy I was invoking my intention based on my attention, based on the collective of what would be the pro-Black or Afrocentric movement. But then I started seeing shit. At this point in time, I started seeing the necessary aspects of why I was connected to certain individuals. I understood why I made the program for my mentor to come into play. My mentor is into play. My mentor came into play. My mentor is there, listening to my mentor, having a conversation with my mentor. I'm in the big boy leagues. I was dealing with in that aspect the demigods of that space within of restaurants and shit. I was in that God realm of that space. But my natural humanity needed and wanted more. But based upon me needing and wanting more in that low vibrational state, the only thing that I can acquire was, okay, cool, I'm gonna go get a watch. I'm gonna go get this crib. I'm gonna go get this big ass TV. I'm gonna go get this and I'm gonna go do this. Okay, cool. Now I got this big ass TV. I got this bomb ass spread of furniture. But I was noticing, just one of those moments, I was like, I ain't got shit hanging on the wall. I just got the TV. I got a little bit of candles and shit. I got furniture. I got shelves to put shit on, but I ain't put shit on the shelves because those shits that was on the shelves would represent the feminine aspect that I did not tap into yet of my divine aspect. I was not understanding that I was still in the wounded aspect of myself, the wounds that were still there. Everything that I was doing was based upon, it was just simply a Band-Aid that was perpetuating a false sense that I was projecting through my masculine aspect. I was projecting through that false sense of my, I was projecting through the false sense of myself. I got the car. Okay, cool. I got the, oh shit. No. Because I keep unplugging shit. Let me stop unplugging shit. All right, cool. Stop. Light flickering. Spirits in the building. I was still living in that space. I read a tweet the other day. And the dude said, men deal with their shit based upon acquiring wealth. They deal with their problems by acquiring wealth. I retweeted and expounded upon it. I was like, no, they're not acquiring wealth, they're acquiring riches. Because that true wealth for yourself is not going to be in all the riches that you're trying to perpetuate. The more attitude would circumvent to me, from my understanding, for me, is the reason that I'm able to invest The reason I'm able to move forward with business plans in the LLC in my company is because I've already made the necessary sacrifices back in my past self, in my past aspects and those rejected aspects that I long forgotten. These came online. So now I explained this in the podcast. I've already made that necessary sacrifice. I'm going to tell that story again. My last job that I was at, there was a lot of, my last job that I was at, this is when I actually started seeing mind control. I was actually starting to understand manipulation. And I was actually starting to see the persuasion aspects of psychology. I actually started seeing these aspects. I remember when I was at my job and I'm working, I needed the job at the point in time because basically my infrastructure just fell, so I didn't have anything. Back and forth between hotels and breaking into abandoned movie theaters and all types of fun shit. My life was lit. It was fun. Neither here nor there, but that's here and there. So I had that aspect. And I remember I got my job. And I remember the first thing that I told my boss at the time, he was like, so let me know about you. I was like, I'm the type. This is when I came into acceptance of a lot of things. I'm the type of energy that when I enter into a space, I naturally am a destructive force in the most positive of manners. This is when I actually started being able to speak and actually speak on my actual self, my true self. I'm actually able to step into that space and I destroy shit. I make shit, I expose shit. I have the power to expose people that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing and have just been riding your clock or riding the wave. They're not going to be able to sustain that ride or that wave because I'm going to be able to demonstrate that I can do all of those things plus some. Went through that whole entire story. So first year went by. We were doing the trucks and I'm on the truck. And I remember the first time I did the truck, I wasn't loading anything and I didn't know where shit was. So I was like, I'm going to start over here in this little space and put shit away. I remember as they were rolling the truck in, by the time they rolled the truck in, the entire truck in, we had the dry storage area, we had the freezer, and we had the cooler. Normal shit in a restaurant. By the time they got the last of the stuff in for dry storage, I already had dry storage put up. By the time they started unloading stuff into the cooler, we got the last things into the cooler, I had everything rotated, everything done, knocked out. By the time I did everything by the time they were getting to the freezer, I already started in the freezer. So we all would convene and finish in the freezer. I remember going into the office after that, and I remember my boss would sit there and he was like, I didn't have to tell you to do any of the things that you just did. You just did them. You living up to that. You living up to the information that I got from your old boss. I was like, it's the same shit. I just reapplied what I learned there to here. I mean, I was at a whole nother restaurant before here, and it was the truck guy and me, and the truck guy would unload shit and I'd be putting shit away and checking shit off and doing all these other aspects. It was natural for me to do it. What I was creating within that space was a new chaos. I was shifting the paradigm or shifting the space simply by being in the space, applying what I already knew into that space. As I did this, I was unlocking new doors for me that would take a normal person those 5-6 years. It was taking me within a year. I had a new status. I had a new external state of being within that space. After doing this for so long, this was in representation of the same. Everything that you're doing is in representation of you having your multiple lives. This is why when you do shit and you have a deja vu moment, you like, nigga, how the fuck did that shit happen? I feel like I've done this shit before. Like, I can sit here and no lie, like, when we get done with this lecture, do our question and answer period and everything, and if I do readings afterwards or whatever it comes to that shit, I'll sit here and I'll literally 4 or 5 days from now, or probably 2 or 3 weeks from now, I'll go to the lecture 2 weeks prior to this and watch it. And the shit that I say, I'll be like, nigga, I said that? Wow, I said that. I really just said that. I didn't realize that I said that. Because I'm within that space. I'm living inside of my space. I'm computing and projecting from in my space. So this ties into your life, like you going through your multiple life paths. The shit that you doing, you've already done before. Based on the imagery, it doesn't look the same. You're not looking for it based upon the imagery. You're looking at it based upon the energy signatures, the algorithms. This is what you're picking up on, how it makes your emotions go into balance. This is when you start understanding when my emotions are out of balance or out of whack, when I'm angry, when I'm mad, when I'm upset. The reason that you're mad, the reason that you're happy, the reason that you're upset, the reason that you're feeling that energy within that motion, within that space, is because it's initiating a trigger to a necessary conduit of a trauma of something that you've been through before within that space. That's why you're feeling it. The heavier that it is, the closer you are to finding what you need to find. That's why it continuously comes up, that anger, whatever it may be, continues to come up within that space. You need that shit. That's why they say don't fight the process. The last episode of Burn Notice I watched. Anybody seen Burn Notice? If you haven't, go back and look at it. Eventually, I'll do a whole breakdown of Burn Notice. But he said to Michael Weston, he was like, a man that has no secrets can truly trust himself. I have no secrets. I trust myself in full. Therefore, when I step into a situation when I step into anything, there's never no doubt or question about me stepping into a situation when I'm speaking. Their perception or their feeling or their thought process, that narrative, whatever's in their mind, used to connect to my aspect of what I'm speaking on, that is what is necessarily needed for them at that point in time. It's not for me to sit there and be like, nah, you going a little too far. That's not for me to say that. They need that aspect because that's how they're used to getting the information. Subjecting yourself to the attributes of the ideal in that space, Cyclomancy, Psychastria, 2 great books for that aspect, Mind Control 101, Persuasion 101, learning how to use that aspect. The thing that gets you stuck is based on that good or bad narrative. It's positive and negatives, polarities. Which polarity am I going to step on and activate to get this information to that space? Understanding that you don't own shit, and it's your succubus or your incubus aspect of yourself, or your identity or your ego, that is creating that lust for that existence. It's nurturing your lust to exist within that space. Mother Earth needs to live. Mother Earth, if everybody in this apartment complex were to get not kicked out of all these fucking apartments right now, around me right now, and they didn't do shit to the land, they didn't do nothing to the trees, nothing, nature is naturally going to take back over as it needs to take over. So that's a falsified thought process. It's a negative aspect that I'm holding on to, that I need to save Mother Nature. Mother Nature can save itself. So what do I need to do that for? If I understand that I have to do the inner work onto myself, and that's how I save myself, and the reflection of that will be the aspects of the internal conflicts of me fixing myself or what I'm seeing outside of me. Then as I step forward, what do I have to worry about the other people for? Why do I need that false narrative or that lust for existence? I'm existing for my people. Because the things that need me at that point in time, I will be there at that point in time. I now have to create a body of light or a stream of light for them to connect to me. After I've created these streams, I've invested into creating these streams. I need a new conduit for these streams to exist within, to holster that energy so I can stream that energy out freely. So now I have to create my new subconscious, which is the God Occult Alchemist LLC. That's my subconscious. It records everything in that I needed to record in. Papa Luci, that serves as my subconscious. That serves as my conscious conduit or my avatar as I'm in this space. Now, in order for me to activate Papa Lucifer, Samdi, Rex, it's a long ass name. In order for me to activate Papa Luci, for it to be the optimal body of light, everything is programmed based upon these streams or based upon my understandings. Whether I'm doing the tarot readings, whether I'm doing natal chart analysis, whether I'm doing spiritual baths, teas, or drawing rituals, or I'm doing candle magic, shadow work rituals for people, other spiritual rituals of this nature of sort, therapy, I'm doing guided meditations, all these aspects. These are my streams of light. Whether I'm putting out a podcast, that's my stream of light. Whether I'm putting out content on my Facebook page or my Instagram or on my Twitter, putting this shit up on my Twitter. I really got to get back into my Twitter. Doing a Friday night lecture. These are my streams of the information that I've now interpreted based on the energy that I've invoked into that space. Now, in order for me to freely attach this energy and calm my energy down, I have to do the necessary shadow work within myself to sit at this seat, to sit as the seat as the sleeping Shiva, to sit in that space as the Baphomet, to sit in that space as whatever deity that you want to use to personify sitting in perfect balance of themselves. For me to be able to activate Papa Luci, I must have an understanding of what I did not just based upon my indoctrination of what I used to fear. Or what I really never feared. These aspects come up within those traumas. I've told the story before about how my pops called me Lucifer. I had to accept that factoid of like, why would he call me Lucifer? What is that? What does that have synonymous with? Why do I keep going back to this memory of my pops calling me this? My pops called me Lucifer. My pops called me a Cancer. My pops called me all of these aspects. He called me all these aspects that were of a lower nature. But what was it based upon? To understand his side of his polarity, he's the super Catholic. He's the religious one. But within the information based upon a religion, the parables that he spoke at that point in time actually made sense. I had to get to a point to where they made sense. Stepping myself away from, man, because if I was saying, because in saying fuck Jesus, I'm naturally saying fuck my pops. By saying fuck Jesus, I'm saying fuck all of my ancestors that use the saints and all of that information to hide their practices in plain sight. That's why I'm saying fuck away for it. That's why I'm saying damn to it, don't give a fuck about it. So I'm leaving all that energy on the floor. So now that I say I want to go higher, I want to get higher, I want to go deeper, I want to go into my enlightenment, come into my spiritual self, all that shit comes back up. All those shadows and rejected parts of myself that I've not yet understood come back to the surface. I have a dream about my pops calling me Lucifer. Must have been a reason he called me Lucifer. Everything that's within the aspects, 1 second. Ugh. All the aspects of being Lucifer, all those aspects of being Lucifer, I have to further understand, because I understand it's a necessary aspect that can take me to the aspects of when I started understanding Set and why Set's on all the temple walls, because he was a necessary aspect. In order for me to understand that negative aspect, that setting or my indoctrination that is represented by the Set module for myself, I have to understand, oh shit. And then that unlocks every other repressed memory. I have repressed memories about motherfuckers would say I would sound really, really fucking dark when I said certain shit. When I said certain things, I sounded really fucking dark. It just sounded so dark. To perfect that space of that reality, I had to accept what I long accepted at that first time based upon identity or ego, to kill my ego. They don't understand you. They're a reflection of me. Therefore, I don't understand myself. If they don't understand me, it's a marker letting me understand that I didn't understand myself at that point in time. Or I didn't understand, therefore I couldn't accept myself. Now I can go back to that moment and have transparency when I go into that moment, because I removed the way that fear-based, which is that module of morality and traditionalism, I removed that marker. That fear part came up. So I understood why that didn't work. It wasn't supposed to. The thing I was holding on to was the ownership of the memories. So I needed to create that aspect. Sometimes when we come into these aspects of ourselves, we don't realize that's how damaging the thought process of surviving based upon independence will kill us. That shit will naturally kill your ass. It kills your it doesn't kill your soul, but it makes your soul less dormant. You can't activate the certain aspects that you need to activate to make your moves the way you need to move. Getting stuck within that space. You stuck within that chaos. You're thinking that chaos came before creation, but what came before the chaos? Chaos is an effect of something else. Chaos is the effect of an original cause. What was the original cause? What energy was the original cause within your life that caused that chaos? What stemmed this chaos? Because from that chaos became your new effect or your identity. The chaos of your birth coming down to this level, that was a stem. Before that was another chaos. Before that chaos of your birth, before the chaos of your birth, that's another effect of another cause. What caused this chaos? Oh, the conception of me coming into the world. What caused this conception of me coming into the world? The conception of me coming into this space, coming into this paradigm where my parents coming together. What was the state of being of my parents coming together? My father was the dealer. My pops actually ran a fucking brothel. Numbers for the mob. Type shit like that. The more business aspect. My pops was the dealer. Or basically the shaman aspect. Selling motherfuckers their hopes and dreams in vials and syringes. All of this shit is necessary for you to understand and move forward with it. What was my mother? Oh, my mother was a nice little country woman. She grew up in a household with 3 boys and 12 other girls. She never knew who her father was. She never knew who her true father. She never met her father. She had like a couple of remnants of her father that her stepsisters got rid of from her. So she experienced that loss. So all of these aspects that matriculated into my mother's growth of her coming into her fruition, all of those algorithms are something that I chose based upon that rhythm for her to exist within that space, for me to use that portal of that gateway. The aspects of my father being where he was at, being up in Spanish Harlem, being in New York, doing what he did, all of those aspects and archetypes came together for me to have the nexus point for me to be created within this space. Now I understand that cause. These two causes, her causes made the effect of her being created. The causes for my father made him created and brought me down into this space so I can be here. So now I'm understanding those aspects of those traumas of what, now in order for me to tap into that energy of my grandmother, I have to first understand the aspects that created my mother. What does she connect? What does she represent? What Orisha does she represent? What balance does she represent? Does she represent, my mother represents yin and yang energy. My mother represents yin and yang energy. My grandmother represents the Oya of the Mama Brigitte energy. How do they connect? How are these two aspects connecting? My pops represented fucking shit. My pops represented Thoth energy. My pops represented Papa Legba energy, because his roots came from the fucking island. His roots came from from Puerto Rico, the island down there deep into Santeria, and all of these rites. Aspects that were lost based upon that travel of being here for so long. So as I start coming online, these things come up. So when I start reading certain information, or certain information starts coming to me based upon seeing a book, based upon reading something, based upon meeting somebody, it's an aspect that I need to tap into next. I've met every archetype of my birth chart throughout my life. I'm an Aquarius sun, a Leo moon, and a Scorpio rising. I've met every aspect and archetype on that chart at some point in time in my life. The masculine and the feminine aspects of those aspects. I've met the Gemini North Node, my North Node of Gemini. I've met my South Node of Sagittarius. My little sister is a Sagittarius. All of these aspects start connecting, and you start understanding that by you understand, you start seeing why these things were put into play, why you put it into play in the first place, to understand different aspects of yourself. But when you get stuck on the one side or the other, when you get stuck on the Kabbalah or the tree of life, you don't understand that the tree of life is simply a reflection of the Quillo, or the tree of the actual tree of knowledge. Acknowledging these aspects based upon the tree of knowledge, you see how these different ciphers light up in your life and how you created these aspects of yourself. But in order to get through that life aspect, this is the aspect of you have to die first. True enlightenment is actually dying. That's what the ego death is. A coward dies a million deaths, 100 deaths, a million deaths, however many fucking deaths is needed for it to die. The coward aspect is your ego. The coward aspect is your ego. That's why it dies 100 deaths. It's going to die as many deaths as it needs to die for you to learn what you need to fucking learn. When we start reading and understanding the Gnostic teachings, they break down that human thought is the ultimate sin to you. Human thought is ignorance, because it's forethought. You're forward thinking based upon what you thought that you knew. You're overthinking based on what you thought that you knew, over what you thought that what you felt, over you thought of what you created within that space. The byproduct of ignorance is sin. Sin simply means the lack of knowledge. So by nature, this is how the indoctrination kicks in. This is how the indoctrination piece hits you. The indoctrination of you being of sin, yes, I lack knowledge. So you must accept that you are first a sinner to come, because the Jesus or the Christos energy does not work with anything but the sinner. The subconscious, the subconscious only works with the lack of knowledge. It constantly takes in knowledge. This is how you bond those archetypes together of understanding it. So for you, naturally, as we go back again, as you sit there and say, nigga, fuck Jesus. So fuck your subconscious, fuck your true self. Man, fuck the devil. Fuck Whitey, they're the devil. So fuck another necessary aspect of yourself that they're set in hating, you're set in not understanding. So now you create the polarity of it it understands you. Once you understand what it is, it really has no fucking power. Because in order to truly understand it, you must first fucking become it. That's why they put the narrative and they put the program in. Oh, nigga, you acting white now. When you acting like this, and you acting white. And then you can go into the Moorish science, and they study the law aspect. The Moorish science understands the law aspect. And you go into that, I want to say it's the 4th edition law dictionary. And it gives you the breakdown of the aspects of black and white. They're simply statuses. Black being the definition that they give white being pale in all these aspects, that's what black is. Being the absorber of light. Being pale, devoid of, because it is pure light. And they give you the aspect of what white is, and they give it to being black, and then they switch it up, and they say you're acting something else. Get deeper into that. I went into that via blackface, the blackface lecture. So now you're stuck with them rejecting natural aspects of yourself. Because if you hate it, you can't become it. Therefore, you hate it, you have a lack of understanding of it. You have a lack of understanding for it. Therefore, you don't want to become it. So then you get stuck pulling your energy down into a conduit of yourself that's on a lower vibrational point. Being at this point in time, being on the frequency of saying Black Lives Matter, that is the lowest level of the frequency. That's the lowest level of frequency to this level of this in this realm, in the 3D realm. That gives you the science of why motherfuckers have adopted putting Black Lives Matter on a street in their fucking city. It's in a 2D version. It's on the ground. It's flat. It's 2D. You can read it. You could read it. But in order to create upon it, it has to have something to create upon it. It's another fucking statue. I said that. I didn't say that before. The same thing of tearing down all them fucking statues. The same aspect of tearing down them fucking statues off those ley lines and those access points, which was a positive aspect that needed to be done. Was an aspect that needed to be done. All you did was reinitiate a new statue or a new ley line point, a new charge point, by putting Black Lives Matter on the fucking ground. You put it on a flat surface. Now, every time that you see this, similar to when they did the 9/11 aspect of the ritual, every time you see that, everything that Black Lives Matter stands for is what you are accepting when you say it. Whether you want to or not, you are accepting every aspect of it. When you make acceptance for it, accepting all and expecting none, studying all and following none, you can look into the aspect of Black Lives Matter and looking at what it is without being attached to it or feeling bad about anything with it. When I look at Black Lives Matter, all I think about is, it's like the civil rights movement, but for the LGBT community. The same way that the civil rights movement ushered in all these different aspects for the LGBT community in the beginning, now that Black Lives Matter is back into that space, and now that new face are hidden in plain sight, playing blackface, the LGBT community hidden behind it, it serves the purpose. Now, the next level or the next the transgender or the transgenerational aspect of not accepting what you are, what you were born as, that's the reflection of what you see. You're not accepting what you're not born as. That's why it resonates and it gets you all emotional and you get upset. And then you get attached to that succubus aspect. It feeds that intention of, oh my God, it's because of this, this, and this. No. You upset, they upset because you won't accept them for what they were born as. When I see that, it's like, it doesn't resonate with me. I'm unaffected by it because I accepted what I am on the deeper level. If I haven't accepted what I am yet, then yes, that's going to, that reflection is going to resonate and it's going to rock me to my core. When I see the aspects of pedophilia, the lost innocence of childhood, love is love and all of this bullshit, the infatuation with that energy or feeding from that energy, it's a polarity. Because if you choose the side of saying going against that, standing against that, you create the parallel for the ones that stand for it. So now you're pro, you're anti this, and they're pro this. They're pro for it, they're all for it, and you're against it. Polarity. You now stuck within the polarity, within the conduits of that polarity, stuck within that space. The middle point to understand it is, I cannot imagine something inside of me, my inner child is wounded. I can see it as my inner child is wounded in some way. How do I connect back to my inner child? How can I see this aspect and use it as learning aspects to connect to my inner child? I can't see past it. I can't see past it. That's your ego kicking in. You getting upset with it. You having that feeling about it is something. It's a trauma that needs to be activated. It's deeply rooted inside you that you got to activate upon. So you're not affected by it. Now you start seeing it. You start seeing it for how it is and how it plays out. And you're like, oh, it makes sense now. That's why they can sit there and say the virus and then the elephant in the room being the child abduction aspect. They've been doing that shit forever. They used to eat your ass. They used to eat your ass based upon the narrative of the Titans eating the fucking gods. They literally are intellectualized and stuck within a paradigm of their space to play out these different roles for you to understand what it is. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing based upon the program. That program is internalized based upon you understanding it, not anybody else understanding it in this context. Because the ones that understand it, they're at the ones that truly understand it and have ushered on or graduated, they're at the next level understanding it already. They're up there. So then when you're talking to them, they ain't talking about that shit. Yo, how you feel about this? I don't. How can you not feel this way about the babies getting? The only way that I can fix living now in this present state is setting myself up so it does not happen to the ones around me in my state, where I'm at. My nieces, my nephews, all of these aspects that are around me. That's the only way that I actually can truly do something. So for me to do that, I must have to understand that there will be a sacrifice that is necessary, a necessary act and sacrifice in order, until I understand it, I'm naturally saying fuck them kids anyway. Until I'm actually building something in my own self and working on the internal child in me, I can't connect to that child anyway in truth. So I'm naturally saying fuck them kids anyway. I'm naturally saying fuck those. I'm naturally going to say outside of my mouth, fuck them kids. Because until I'm internalizing and understanding the inner child inside of myself, I cannot build a parallel for this child to understand and take them forward. I can't sit there if a child, all they hear is sexy, 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 sexy all over the fucking TV. Until I have a unanimous aspect of understanding the beauty that is me, I cannot speak the aspect of the reflection of being beautiful. I have to heal my wounded aspects of myself through that nexus point, through that contradiction. That contradicts everything that I stand for. It contradicts everything that you stand for based upon your humanity. It's not stopping anything based upon your natural, your God self, your higher self. It contradicts everything based upon humanity. Your humanity, the contradiction between your humanity and your higher self, that's your nexus point that you have to become transparent upon. That's the aspect that you have to understand forgiveness upon. to have the understanding, to have the compassion to move forward on it. Or else you're going to be suckling from the negative aspect. You're going to be suckling from that negative lower aspect of vibration. You're going to be stuck in this lower vibrational pool, even though you're pulling down higher frequency energy. You're going to be in the lower vibrational pool. Therefore, you're only able to act based on the lower energy pool, being angry, being upset, being manipulative. You're going to be using your energy in lower level ways, being manipulative, trying to create love spells and put love spells on motherfuckers, trying to put hate spells and block spells and hexes on motherfuckers. That's what was shown to you in every fucking blaxploitation film. That one called Sugar Hill, the Sugar Hill one, that's when it said, how angry are you? You want to live within the anger of the 70s. So in order to live within that space, within that rhythm of that fear, you can't activate love on any of those key points. You only can at most activate infatuation. So you become infatuated. So infatuated becomes the altered point, that altered algorithm that you now tap into to use your energy and say you're doing something good. But you're still stuck in the aspect of good or bad. You're still stuck in the aspect of good or bad and understand positive and negative. Understanding where you are broken at and understand where that person is actually a conduit of your being broken. Because in between wounded and evil, we'll use evil as this context, between wounded and evil is broken. The transparency aspect between these two is broken. So in order to understand these 2 points on this polarity, you got to understand the broken archetype that's within you that makes that evil and it makes that necessary. Find your middle point. Once you find your middle point, you can now further navigate because you're at the middle point of your cross. You're at your crossroads. Now I'm at my crossroads and I'm at my center point. Now I'm in my center. Now I can pull all this energy in, let it do what it needs to do, and break down what it needs to break down. Once I start allowing these things to break down, now I don't be feeling the same way I used to feel about that same situation. That it don't get to me the way it used to get to me. That party don't feel good to me no more. That enticing from that shorty over there don't feel good to me. That enticing from that dude over there, he ain't looking at me the same way. All of these aspects kick in based on shit that is coming up that you need to deal with. You reach that marker, you get upset, you want to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. You're trying to subject yourself into these spaces, and then you keep getting answers of why you shouldn't be there in the first place. They're trying to change you or manipulate you is because they haven't accepted this. One that tries to change you all the time has not accepted aspects of themselves. This is that thin line between accepting somebody as they are. You have to accept something as it is. That's that middle point. Come to this middle point with that person, to that entity, to that energy, and say, yo, this is me. This is what I do. This is what I'm about. This is where I'm at in my life. Accepting that level of being yourself. Once you accept this level of being in yourself, your level of being, where you're at, whether you're in the low level of your wounded, you've done some healing, you've done that aspect. The most important aspect is accepting that aspect and point for yourself. Because if you don't, you can't accept that aspect. You cannot accept that access point or accept that access point in others. You can't see why they're there. You stuck within the smoke. You stuck within the clouds. So if I do your reading, I pull up the 7 of cups. Or is it 7 of cups? 7 of cups. If I pull up a 7, like, yo, there's some confliction somewhere in your life. Where is it at? Let's find it out. So if you come to me and if you want that consultation and I'm allowing you to speak and you're bringing all this stuff up, I've never been able to speak this type of stuff out before. That's the space that you're in. You've met the nexus point. You've humbled yourself to come to this information. I like this. I say that shit all the time. I flirt with fucking souls. I speak to your soul. In order for you to understand what me and your soul just had a conversation about, just like any of this information, You got to be humble to your soul to open up that door. Or else you're going to take everything that I literally said in the literal aspect, people that take stuff into a literal aspect of self based upon their identity to make it work for them, which is an unconscious act. But when you do it consciously, you take in all the information. When you do it unconsciously, you only take in some of the information. This fits my paradigm. This energy fits my space. I'm going to use this energy. Wait, how do I get more of it? I got to be the same way that I was when I first went to that space. So if I never evolve and I stay within that space, I can keep churning that energy. That is trauma bonding. Churning that same energy based upon the trauma, based upon being lost in yourself, not understanding yourself, and you go looking and you shall find it. Just the aspect of looking, go look and you shall find. Motherfuckers out here right now looking for the same shit based on they get all the new information and they want to use it in the same space. It ain't supposed to work like that. That needing more, balancing and creating your new budget. And this is the spiritual aspect, and the spiritual aspect is the truer aspect of the invisible. So everything that you want to make visible within that truth of yourself, you got to go into the invisible. So that means you got to go into what is unknown to the human. You got to go what's unknown to your humanity, unknown to your human mind, and start activating from here, from the heart chakra. This is that path work. This is that crossroad. You got to start crucifying shit. So every time you come to a new access point, remember, your heart represents that the center point of the crossroad, your heart chakra, that open portal, but this is also that black hole. This is why that weight weighs on some people's hole. This is why motherfuckers, that's why that weight pops up on your heart, is because it's a black hole. It's a portal that leads to everywhere and nowhere at the same exact fucking time. This is that abyss. This is that nexus point that you need to acknowledge. So everything that's within that nexus point that you have allowed to go in there based upon those heartstrings that you allow to be pulled. The death of your family member, the death of this, the breakup of this, the breakup of 1998, the fight of 2006, all of these aspects that you got to kick into, these are all the aspects that naturally come up. That's not based upon any, it's based upon parallels. So no one else, yes, true indeed, no one else understands my pain because I went through this. I just wish somebody understood my pain. Speak the spell, you get exactly what the fuck you want. Now you got 5 or 6 friends around you, all going through their own fucking daddy issues or their mom issues or whatever issues they're going through that are all in parallel to your energy. Now y'all all are circling from the same nexus point and all y'all are feeding off that feeling. Yeah, man, fuck my mom, man, I don't give a fuck, fuck my dad, fuck this and fuck this and fuck that. Fuck these motherfuckers over there, they ain't about this life like us, You got it. I'm a hard and I'm a strong and I'm an independent woman and I'm a real nigga, How real is your image when it can be emulated and shown over and over and over again on fucking TV? They externalize conflict of what the fuck you say you are. It's shown on TV. I call it that love and hip hop syndrome. 1 second. You may have went through a trauma. You may have went through a trauma that led you to be alone in that aspect. A trauma that you never had things happen for you. And now you are thriving off the manipulation of the energy within the attention that you get based upon being an independent person. I'm independent. I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this. Independency needs codependency. So now you need, based upon your trauma, the thing that you didn't acknowledge, you either become the succubus or the incubus based upon the trauma to entice the lust for existence within that space. One conversation that's the biggest conversation that people need to have is when someone sits there and they hit you with that, girl, it ain't you, it's them niggas, and then the niggas ain't shit. Yo, dude, you know these hoes ain't shit. Da 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 da. Nigga, that's your ego talking to you. That's the trauma talking to you. Because once you come out of that aspect and you say, now you're saying, I just want the real man, or I just want the real queen, or I just want this real aspect. You can't connect to this aspect over here because you very well can. But if you're wounded trying to connect to this energy on a lower vibrational point, and you, let's say you meet the Mr. Right archetype or the Mrs. Right archetype. Let's say you meet them. Okay, you met them. Let's say you end up having a nice, fun evening of intimacy. Being that you only create in a lower vibrational state. Here's some of my CBD water too at the same time. Now that you're at this lower vibrational state, what do you think you're going to create in that space? You're going to create everything that's used to sustain that space. So you get with this dude, y'all get together, y'all have your conversations. They fit the external state of what you feel that you need. You fit the external state of need for what they need. You're not addressing all the negative archetypes, the insecurities, and all these aspects. Y'all get together, y'all have some good old times. You have a good old time. What do you think you're taking in? You didn't know yourself, so you didn't think to ask them the question because you're afraid they'll move away if they really knew you. What you're telling yourself, you're scared to know yourself. But we're going to get into that after we say that. Y'all get together. Y'all lay down. Y'all do your thing, balcony, whatever the fuck y'all at. Y'all do your thing. What do you think's been implemented inside of yourself? He is now seated inside of you, all of that energy exchange. With that energy is encompassed within every aspect of this person that you did not know of yourself you're only going as deep as you went deep inside of yourself. So everything is programmed upon you that you think that you want. You can say, I want a good man, I want this, be caring, and all of these things. And they can say these same things to themselves based upon the intent. Now, if it's done unconsciously, you still create something. So y'all come together, the relationship ain't shit. The relationship is fucking trash. Y'all are always arguing. You keep calling this nigga, he ain't nothing. He ain't got this, and this. She keep calling you a bitch, going upside your head. You keep going upside his head. Y'all keep going back and forth. And y'all fighting back and forth. What has been initiated are the wounded archetypes that need to be worked on for y'all to be exactly what the fuck y'all need to be. Everything that shows up in him, based upon that wounded archetype, are things that you need to see. That's why it's there. Remember, there's no such thing fucking coincidence. There's infinite possibilities within the infinite probabilities, within those infinite nexus points or those infinite parallels. This person is in your life. This person ain't doing shit. This person ain't got no money. This person ain't got no job. This person ain't got no drive. This person ain't got no job car, so they ain't got no drive. This person ain't got no job, so they ain't got no drive. They ain't got no integrity to themselves. This person ain't got no house. This person ain't got their home in order. This person got all they have is the external aspects or the negative necessary aspects to make all of that happen. What you're seeing is let's say you have the crib and that nigga got the car. So you don't have the drive to get the car, and he don't have his home in order. He don't have his drive in order to get the home. That's how y'all connected. Is your home in order? He has no home, or she has no home. So now she's in your life emulating, is your house in order? You're allowing all of this energy into your space, and now your home is in further disorder. You're allowing this person to use your car, drain your energy. They ain't got no drive. They ain't got no drive. They ain't got no work. They ain't got no energy. So how are they going to feel something to have a drive or have a purpose? Lower vibrational standard. You set that standard. You set that tone based on not going to the depth of yourself. That's when the breakup happens, you're like, I'm going to cut my hair. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. New year, new me. You go into that aspect. New year, new me. New year, new me. What did you learn from the other aspect? You still activating on that fear. You're still activating on that fear point. Everything that came up within that relationship was a learning aspect. Something from you to learn from. You only take the lessons forward. Now, if whether the lesson's unlearned or learned, you're still taking that lesson forward. So if it's an unlearned lesson, therefore that's how it repeats itself. So now you in another relationship, you in another fucking job, you at another dead-end job that you're in that dead-end job because it's not taking you to your fullest potential. It's not promoting you. You didn't get a raise. Internally, you're not giving yourself the promotion that you need. You're not promoting yourself as you need to promote yourself. You're not raising yourself as you need to raise yourself. So when I go back to an aspect of thinking about my old job, I rose myself and promoted myself to a level to where I was sitting there at my job and I sat down at a manager meeting. I was like, I need to talk to y'all after we done with the meeting. Say, talk about it now. I was like, well, I'm going to be cutting my hours back because I'm working on my personal training and my personal endeavors. So I'm be cutting my hours back. The first thing my boss said to me, like, you sure you want to cut your hours back? You sure you got the money for that, Charlie? I was like, yeah. I didn't tell him, yeah, no. I was like, yeah, I'll be good. Because I already made the sacrifice and the syncrement to my energy. I only need about $135 a week because we got paid weekly. I only needed $135 a week to sustain everything that I was doing at that time. Laundry, keeping my laundry, my food, my ways to work, all my aspects. I only need $135, keep my hair cut, keep everything fresh, do everything I needed to do. So I knew that $135 I can make within 30 hours out of the week. I can make $135, 30 hours a week. That would give me about $300. I was good with that. So I take $135 from that and all the rest I put into savings and put into where I need to put it into. I was good. I built myself to that point. So when it naturally came up to where my boss wanted to be petty and cut me down to 25 hours a week, I tricked because that was an aspect of my ego being shown to me, not knowing what I truly had within, not truly knowing what I had within my bag. So now I'm sitting there like, nigga, oh shit, nigga, you gave me more days off? And I still within that space, since I didn't react, I was already proactive in my approach. I still made 35 hours out of the week. Even though I was cut down to 25, they still needed me to either come in early, stay late, all of these aspects. Every aspect that I needed, every parallel that I can attach to make what I needed to make necessary in that space, I could do. I could wield my magic and move my shit as I needed to because I was outside of the aspects of my identity holding me based upon a trauma or holding me based upon a trigger of being angry or upset or whatever it may be. I can go back through the Rolodex of every relationship that I was in order to be unlocked or that forgiving aspect of the relationship, because I learned something from every aspect of my I learned something from every relationship. So I don't have to go back to them. I don't have to deal with them because I already took the understanding from every one of those relationships. Every relationship showed me something. This is deep fucking shadow. These are those depths of shadow work that we don't really discuss that need to be discussed. These are those deep aspects of shadow work that this is what I work on. This is what we have. This is what the counseling, this is what the conversations, the clarity through your readings, this is what we're going to discuss. So me creating that paradigm, that stream of light and understanding of it, I had to first become it. So this puts me into that aspect of understanding what it is when I'm in that space. So that's why I'm able to, that's why you went through what you went through to become it, based on the algorithm of subjecting to the ideal of that space, being unaffected, being unfazed by what it was and how it happened. Oh my God, I got mom issues because my mom didn't love me. My mom stole $20 from me for my first fucking lawn care when I was doing lawn care, and I got my first allowance. I had my first after school job. She jacked me for some money. I never can forgive her. Why did she do it? Observer, go back to the space. Your mother was in an environment. My mother was in an environment where they made money the actual key concept. My mother was so far attached from my grandmother or her mother that she couldn't tap into the magic or the aspects of the energy of what my grandmother was doing. Because my grandmother had sustained to survive within that space, practicing in plain sight. She became since it was lost in plain sight, you lose that vision. You're only using certain aspects, but you never ask the questions because of that new algorithm of the religious aspect. So in order for me to understand how to get back to what my grandmother was and signified, and I work with, everything that I do is what my grandmother has done, based upon me understanding the feminine archetype of energy. The wounds of my mother were necessary aspects for me to have to humble myself to come into, to understand and ask that question, to understand, to go through it, to get to the rejected parts of myself. These are the aspects that we have to get into deeply within yourself, deeply rooted within yourself, to actually initiate that actual enlightenment. It's cool to be woke. It was cool to be woke 5-6 years ago. It was cool to argue back and forth and debate 5 or 6 years ago. Coolest shit ever. But now you just seeing old men argue and talk back and forth about shit, and you can get a little bit of information out of it, but after a while you like, nigga, that shit don't make no sense to me. I don't care about it. It doesn't, I truly don't care. They're talking about the same shit over and over and over again. The last actual I watched, it was with Professor James Smalls. Shout out to that elder. And the Black Jesus dude. And they were having a conversation, and the Black Jesus, the first time I saw him, he was going up against Polite, Brother Polite. Polite is the debate monster. Like the way he put his information together, that's how I learned how to research and put my information together. That's one aspect of archetype that I learned that aspect from. I took from that aspect. I had to remove myself from the negative undertones. He's a scammer and he's this, and this. I had to remove those negative undertones to be able to fully ingest that energy, fully ingest that stream of energy to understand myself. And he was giving big ups to James Smalls and Brother Polite and all of the teachers, because he was coming into the aspects of accepting that I'm a Christian and I'm a Hebrew Israelite and I'm all these aspects. So what that shows me is he's unified these aspects within inside of himself, Not for me to understand whether he unified it or said it right, but he unified these aspects inside of himself. That's a reflection of me unifying these aspects inside of myself. So I can't hate them. I still call Hebrew fucking Israelites Power Rangers. I'm still going to call them that because that's the fun part of what they remind me of. They remind me of Power Rangers. Just like when I call the Moors, the nigga off of Secret Squirrel, his mole friend, that's what I call them. I call them the fucking moles. Or when I think about the Kemites, all I think about is I think about the bad guys on fucking Power Rangers. When I think about Hebrew Israelites and the Kemites, I think about the Power Rangers, and I think about Rita Repulsa and fucking Zord and Goldar and all these other motherfucking creatures off fucking Power Rangers. That's how I perfect those spaces so I can have that childlike imagery of studying that information. Said that with a serious ass fucking face. That's how you start learning these aspects. You're taking them in to your inner child. This is where visualization comes in. And you start doing that work of building your scenarios, and you start understanding how to charge your energy, and you start understanding all of these aspects into yourself. This is how you start initiating the aspect. This is how you start working with your magic. If you're doing anything based on lower vibrational standards, man, this cursed Trump. All right, cool. Trump, I took the aspect, that's Mars energy, red hair, Mars energy. The same aspect of stirring the pot that Brother Malcolm did. Not in the same life, but in parallel. Stirring the pot, bringing shit to the light, making you realize shit, making you enlightened, bringing you to a level of enlightenment. Trump is more enlightened most motherfuckers, and you can't admit it, therefore you can't use the fucking energy. The first year of Trump, the motherfuckers talked about he's good for businesses. He's a businessman. They gave you aspects. He went bankrupt a bunch of times and all this shit. That's nice. That's cool. But that nigga still is the motherfucker that's good for he setting them business aspects in. Reason you don't like it because you can't invest in your own energy. So you need a monster or a negative aspect to invest your energy into. That's a necessary aspect that you need to see. This shit is over. This shit ain't coming back. You're not doing all this shit to make this shit better. You're doing all this shit to create that space inside of your mind, create that space in your astral realm, create that space in the higher realms, and watch that shit matriculate as it matriculates as you formulate it there. Everything that I matriculated in my higher realms of myself is matriculating down here. It's coming down here in this aspect. So I'm learning all the aspects, and it's coming through the aspects of me, all the stuff that I've learned before, based on investments, based on numerology, based on the gematria, based on all of these aspects. So when I see these algorithms and I see these phases, I can look at the phase and I can have fun with it. I can look and be like, oh shit, nigga, I'm a number 4. I'm a 4, nigga. I'm an 8. Nigga, that's the number of alchemy. That's the number of creation. I'm a creator. By default. So that fits within my God paradox. So I'm a God. What's above 8? 9. 9 is ether. 9 goes, then you start understanding these aspects like, oh shit, nigga. That's my occult. That's my hidden. That's me understanding the hidden subconscious. That's me understanding the aspect. I heard somebody say today something about the occult, and they were like, they used the wrong term. They used the term wrong, but then they cleaned it up and they gave the explanation to it. But I understood what the fuck they were saying. It wasn't for me. I could have been, if I was in my ego, I could have went into the comments on the YouTube channel and be like, no, you said that word wrong. This means this and this. Why do I need to do that? Why? So now I feel good because I made this person look stupid. I made this person look lower than me, that I knew more than them. Oh shit, I just jumped into a realm of being in conflict. Now I gotta, in order for me to continue getting that energy, that feel good, I gotta be within that, I gotta initiate that conflict or initiate So instead, me being the observer, I observe what she said based upon what she said, and I can listen to the whole context of her entire piece, her entire video. She said the first thing she said and the last thing she said was she's just now coming into and realizing she learning. So they're pretty sure, just like I did when I looked at stuff and I was reading stuff and I come back to it like, oh, I gotta go deeper. That's what that means. I didn't go deeper yet. That's why that stuck out. That's why I said that. That's why that was said. There's things that I've said. There's things that I said in beginning God thoughts that I used to put when I was posting on Facebook, my God thoughts, the blog post that I put on the website. There was things that I said in there that have no connection to now. The way where I'm at now compared to where I was at then when I was acquiring knowledge is two different aspects. But within those, you can see the contradiction point and understand that's where I grew at. When you get stuck within that same old song and dance, that trend setting type shit, you get stuck within, I need to have a certain amount of people looking at me and following me at all times, or my shit ain't worth it. I don't do that for that aspect. That's the esoteric is meant for the enlightened few. So when I speak on things on the psychological level and break down things like this is meant for the enlightened few, the ones that are ready to receive this information. Whether they are unconscious of it or rarely ever not, there's something inside them is ready for this information. So they come in and get the information. What they do with it is what they do with it. Do it thou wilt. Study all and follow none. That's why when I also say, nigga, research. I just literally read from this book. I just read from the Nag Hammadi scriptures. This is the book. Everything else around the lecture that was delivered, that came from me, the vast studying and channeling. And those downloads coming down for me to put that information out. So when the book comes into fucking play, that's reinforcing, that's your nexus point to study, to go further, to take it to the next level. But you got to do that shadow work. Always going to go back to shadow work, because shadow work's that necessary part. Because if you ain't doing the shadow work, you're not really going to be able to apply it the way you need to apply it. I can take revolutionary psychology. I can take the Hermetica, flip open through the Hermetica, open up to a page. That's not what I wanted to read. Pull it open and be like, oh, that's what I need to read next. Cool. And it fits within that narrative. When I did if you go back and watch my SEX 66, the SEX 666 lecture, I broke down aspects and inserts from The Way of the Superior Man, giving you a nexus point. You have to look for that nexus point. That is the most important key into your works, is looking for that point. If somebody is giving you information that sounds redundant or that sounds regurgitated, 9 times out of 10, it might be regurgitated because they have not learned how to apply that energy into their own life. They're using the lower end of it to make sense of something on a lower level. But it can't exist in the higher realms within the 5D, the 6D, the 9, all the higher levels of aspects of dimensions, because it's not meant to be there. It'll change into something else. These are the keys. That succubus archetype of energy, or that incubus archetype of energy, studying that mythos and understanding they come into the sleep state and they feed upon that aspect. That's like looking at, let me think of a movie. It's coming. Use damn, that movie just left my fucking mind right now. But you use these aspects to understand and take yourself to be more clearly in tune with your higher self, moving with your higher self. Once you start moving in that space of that energy and you're allowing that shit to start cultivating, you're doing that necessary works, that separation naturally comes. You naturally don't want to be around certain people. You naturally don't want to be around certain beings. But what will reflect to you are aspects that if you're feeling like you're on the fence about your shit, you're going to start seeing people that are on the fence about their own life. They're going to try to pull you back. They're going to either consciously or unconsciously pull you back into, this is what I got from this. That's your nexus point. Well, I studied this and I did this and I did this and I did this before, and this is what I got. What are you able to say? What are you able to say? Well, I've studied this and I've done this and I've done this and I haven't done that and I haven't done my study and I haven't done this and I haven't done this. That's what this is showing me. You got to be humble to your heart to understand the true gnosis. You got to be humble to yourself to understand that true aspect. That's a learning aspect. Everything down here is meant for you to learn from. This shit that I've learned that I forgot that I've remembered again, like 7-9 million times. But that's all a part of the fucking process. It's not needed, let go. It's not needed, let go. It's not needed, let go. This is one of the biggest aspects. This is one of those biggest aspects I go through a guided meditation, where I'm doing a guided meditation to somebody, or I'm doing that. I'm doing the natal chart analysis for somebody. These are the aspects. These are the things that I look for within their analysis. My natal chart analysis are very fucking detailed, and that's based upon taking all the information that I take in. Because I remember the first time I wanted to give myself a natal chart analysis, and I went to this one site. I forgot the name of the site. This was so long ago, and I got basic information, and it left me needing more information. I wasn't happy and or sad. I just was not enthused with the information that I got. I needed to get deeper. It only gave me a basic level of access, and I spent like, how much money did I spend on that shit? I think it was like $60 for that natal chart analysis. And I was like, yo, this didn't give me shit. So when I pressed my shit at 45, I pressed my natal chart analysis are at $45. And I need to activate the form on my fucking website so people can actually write their information about what services they've gotten. But if you look at my Facebook page and like look at my Facebook page, people that tell you about my services, you can tell when they had a service for me, because like, this nigga is detailed as fuck, because I need to be detailed as fuck, because you need enough information in order to be able to take you to your next level. I don't want you to come to me. I don't want you to come to me tomorrow for a service, and then every month you come to me for that same service, because to me it's showing that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing on my end, because you keep coming back for the same exact service. That's one perception for myself. Because when I give you a service, in the thorough and the detail I go through the service, it's a teaching point. So when you're done with the service and the intention and it does what it's supposed to do, it initiates and it does what it's supposed to do. If you come back to me, it will be for a different service. Damn, he did this, and I'm able to do this. That's the teaching aspect, because I don't plan on being that necessary point for you to have to keep coming back to for your information. I want you to come to a point to where you're like, yo, I learned this, this, and this. What do you think about this? Those are the conversations that I like to have, because that gives me more aspect to learn from. If I don't know, then I don't know. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't think about it that way. That shit sounds fucking great. All right, cool. What else did you get? And then that's the building process. That's the humbling process. Always listen to people based on, this is when you start studying and reading people, it's the best way to understand yourself. Take information that you get from, if you're not able to apply that information, it wasn't information. Or you weren't open. You either weren't open to the information, or it wasn't meant to serve at that purpose. You took it into a literal context. But everything that you get, if it stimulates your thought, if it forces you to actually think, not what to think, it's not giving you what to think, it's teaching you how to think. When I give out information, I'm giving you the how, not what to think. I don't care what you think as long as you think. But are you thinking based on what to think on a paradigm of a trend or whatever glamour it may be? Or are you actually moving in the aspect of actually thinking and learning how to think to succeed to go to the next level? That's the major key. I, as Papa Luci, give you the skull. The skull equates to skill. The heart on my head represents that the heart is the true mind. That's that symbolism. I speak to you in that symbol. Every time you see this symbol, I'm getting this logo worked out now for my stamp piece, for my new stamp piece for my logo. But that's what that means. But you got to understand that you have to die to be reborn, to metamorphosize, to understand that that is the true heart. If you look up here, it's two hearts up here. It's one heart, and then it's the eye actually above the heart. These are aspects of what you study and you move upon. I'm going to go take my last little bathroom break. This is our question and answer period. You got a question. It ain't got to be about the subject matter of the lecture. You have a question, drop it over there in the comments, and we'll get into that aspect. I'll be right back. While y'all are doing that aspect, this is your first time, second time, third time, how many times? Subscribe, like, share. Allow the knowledge to do what it's supposed to do. Got our podcast. I've been running my podcast for about November. It'd be a year, I want to say. November would be a year when we started the podcast. Got our podcast is available on multiple platforms, including Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Breaker. It's also available on the YouTube channel through Spreaker, iHeartRadio, many more to come. Got our podcast, drop a new episode every Tuesday at 6 a.m. I drop the new episodes for the Got Our podcast. This week's episode, we got into, I never remember the titles of my podcast sometimes. As we go into my Anchor app. Oh yeah, we got into loopholes this week. Loopholes was this week's podcast. Very deep. We got into loopholes or energy gouging, the aspects of the old contracts. Occult Alchemist is the website. Occult Alchemist is the website for all of the services. There are services that are unlisted. If you have a question about a service about a service or something that you would like to see if I provide, go ahead, hit that email. The Papa Luci 666 at gmail.com is the email for that. Drop the email, drop your questions, ask questions about books, personal question about your books, all these aspects that you want to get into. Drop it all in there. Business inquiries, from booking to wanting to be an interview on the podcast, wanting to do some networking on those aspects. setcolonegis at gmail.com is the business aspect, the business email. Or you can hit me up at 910-777-7708. Call or text. I suggest you text first because if I don't know your number, Drop the text, say who you are, ask a question. You can do everything from setting up the appointment for a consultation Consultation is $90. It will be the best $90 that you spend based on, and I guarantee it, based on your intent on wanting to learn and to grow. $90, video chat, nice hour conversation. We have an hour conversation. Nice hour conversation. You might need something. You might just be stuck on something and you just need that little conversation. Everything from the life coaching aspects, life coaching, the spiritual life coaching aspects, all the way down to the counseling and the therapy. We break down the shadows. We break down the understanding of your shadows, the things that you need to work on, the things that you've been going through, and make sense of them and bring them into an interpretation. It's always nice to have that confidential space where you can have that conversation. That's what that provides. Counseling, therapy, those are there. Natal chart analysis start at $45. They're at $45. Reading start at $25. Reading start at $25. Basic 5-card reading, $25. We go deeper into different aspects. Shadow readings, clarity readings, all the other readings. I'll send you the price list via the email, via the set up that appointment. Spiritual baths start at $30. Spiritual baths start at $30. You get 2 baths in the spiritual. It's enough for 2 baths in that kit. You get enough for that. $45 gets you the CBD infused, the specialty charged CBD infused salts added to the regular salt to the bath. So you can either take that $45 bath and you can turn it into 4 baths, or turn it into 4 baths, or do 2 baths. So you can split it up based on how you want to do that. And I do the specialty baths, the specialty custom baths, the invoking bags, everything from you want to work with Kali energy, you want to work with Tiamat energy, who else? Whatever energy you want to work with or invoke, I specially prepare and conjure and put those herbs together for that bath. Detailed directions, everything from the sigils and everything. Or you might just want a drawing ritual and an awakening ritual. Do those too via the candle magic aspect. Encrusted, steamed, and pressed baths that candles, specially charged for your invoking for that ritual, that aspect. Those start at $25. What else? We're being real thorough. The other aspect that we do via the other aspect that I do shadow work rituals, candle magic, mirror rituals, unlocking your subconscious, doing those programs. Those are a la carte. Those are up there as well. Ask me for the services, for the prices for those services. That's based upon your level of your confidence of saying what you want to do. I'm, of course, going to naturally ask the questions that are needed to be asked. Have you ever performed this ritual? Have you ever done this before? Have you done your shadow work? What shadow work have you done? I'm asking the necessary questions because I'm working with your energy, and I'm not trying to be tied up in your energy because you're trying to do something else with your energy that don't really work. That's not what we do it. But yeah, you become a patron to the podcast. Anchor FM, it's Anchor FM /God Alchemist. Lucifer Sami's the Cash App link. Support and donations for that, for the creation aspects. You can set up a reading via my DMs. If you're on my IG, Papa Luci 666 at Gmail, Papa Luci _666 on my Instagram, Brock Colonidis, because they won't let me change the name on Facebook, but that's okay. Brock Colonidis is the Facebook name. Drop it in the inbox. You want to get a reading that way? We can set it up that way. The most important step is that you acknowledge your level of being, acknowledge where you at. I want you to be great because that shows me a reflection of my greatness and what I learned from. You got to be open. That's the main important key. Being open to understanding your level of being, accepting where you are at, and ushering forward. That's why I can put the guarantees that I put in, because based upon your intention to want to grow, to want to elevate, to want to evolve, to want to become your natural abundance, your natural prosperity, your natural wealth, and then using it as you see fit, that is the main exact key. That is the aspect of being in your spiritual self. It's cool to be awake. Cool. You awake. You are acknowledging that you have been asleep. But at a certain point in time, that enlightenment, that's what truly ushers you into your spiritual practices. Until you do that shadow work, you ain't really doing nothing but riding around in that hamster wheel. That pro-black hamster wheel, Black Lives Matter hamster wheel, all of these aspects. Yeah. The books that we use tonight, before we close out, the books, Nag Hammadi scriptures. I went into some things about the dark persuasion and dark psychology. We went into mind control tonight. Those books I'll have posted up on the site. Those books are posting up on the site or posting up on the my page, one of my pages. So you have following insights. Notes. If you're interested in the notes for the lectures, hit that email. Further questions, go ahead, hit me up. Yeah. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the support. I appreciate that aspect because it shows me that I'm where I need to be. This shows us where we need to be. This shows us where we need to be and how we need to grow. I'm proud of you as much as you're proud of yourself. No one's going to put more love into you than you put into yourself. No one's going to do more preventative. No one's going to put the amount of preventative maintenance that you need to put into yourself more than you put into yourself. Be that reflection and allow that to come to you. Accept what comes to you to get closer to that goal, to get closer to that space. You have to accept that. It's all about accepting it. If you say that you are beautiful and you love yourself and you say that you are rich and you are gracious, you are abundant, and the next stream that comes through is a bunch of shit like that's all the exact opposite of you being abundant and prosperous and beautiful, those are the aspects that you need to work on. Do the work. Watch it change. Watch it shift. Watch yourself grow. Don't do it for the external state to stay the same. That shit's over. Don't do it to fit within a paradigm of something that no longer can feed you. You learn how to feed yourself, you learn how to grow. But yeah, if you're interested in a reading, go ahead, hit me up for the reading. You hit me up in the reading, in my inbox. Hit that number. Everything's in the description aspect. Hit me up. That's what I'm here for. And if there's no questions, comments, or concerns, I'm going to bid y'all a great night. Study all, follow none. Fuck everything. Study all and follow none. And fuck anything that tries to make you conform to anything less than what you are. I love y'all. We love us. Ashe. Thank you. You're welcome.